Spoilers and offensive content to come.
This is Carl's Dave Anime Rave. We are the best anime review show on the internet. Today, we are going to be reviewing Voltron, Legendary Defender, Season 1. This is a Netflix original American animated series written by Americans and animated in Korea. A lot of the same people who are involved in a lot of other shows we like are involved in this show as well. There's staff here from the Avatar animated series. There's staff here from Thundercats. There's staff here even from stuff like Justice League Unlimited. The voice director, Andrea Romano, is the voice director here. The voice talent is very broad. There's a character voiced by the person who does Jasper in Steven Universe. There's a character voiced by the main character of Adventure Time. There's loads and loads of talent behind the show. It was recently confirmed for a third season and beyond. And I have actually myself watched the first two seasons, and I'm forcing Dave to watch it because I'm a nice guy. He forces me to watch crap, and I force him to watch good stuff.
Wah, 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 wah.
So this is...
Oh, man. Are there any links we need to know to previous Voltron series?
No. There are some little hints and nods, like a lot of the character names were the translated character names of the Go Lion characters.
Okay.
Which is what the original Voltron was based off of. Voltron's one of those funny properties in that it has had, counting this, at least 3 American remakes. Because even though, like, the original Voltron was based off Go Lion, which was a Sentai type show in Japan, and kind of like Robotech, Voltron was a mix of 2 different Go Lion shows that they cut footage together for and wrote new stories for. Like, there were characters who had brothers who looked like them, so when the first character died, they just kept the same character in the form of that brother, for example. The only links, though, are links like that, little nods to the past continuity. This is its own story. The villain in the show is voiced by the same voice who does Optimus Prime and Digimon character Hawkmon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think you'll enjoy that. This is its own entity. There are certain differences from original Voltron stuff, and if you remember old Voltron stuff, maybe bring it up and we'll talk about it. But yeah, this is a show that stands on its own. It's impeccably animated. It is beautiful. I think, Dave, you're going to enjoy this.
We'll see. And Aang came out of the...
Everything changed with the Fire Nation attack. Is that what you wanted, Dave? Is that what you wanted? You got it, Dave. You're right. Aang is in there. This is Space Avatar, the remake.
Hey, it would be one angle of the show.
Why is your studio so cold? Is it because you're counting on my rage to heat it up?
Yep, definitely. Stargate just got really weird.
Stargate did get really weird. I know you only heard a little clip of Zarkon, but you got the Optimus Prime in there. You got the vibes.
Hey, Optimus Prime's voice actor makes everything better. See Transformers live action movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those movies definitely need a dose of better, don't they?
Yes, they did. Man, the Mako really sucks in this universe.
There are quite a few Mass Effect isms to the show I think you'll appreciate. For people who have played Phantasy Star Online 2 or have seen it extensively, a lot of the imagery here will probably invoke feelings of that as well.
Hey, that's great, because both those universes rock. Just too bad one game series doesn't ever make it out here.
Yeah, they really should bring out Mass Effect too in North America.
Okay, please tell me he's not just simply a giant walking fat Jew.
You know what? When I was watching this show, I did sometimes feel that with Hunk, because yeah, they do make some jokes at the expense of his weight, which, by the way, is stuff that we've seen done extensively in shows we have loved on the Carlos and Dave Anime Rave. I'm not making excuses for it, but I am going to say that Hunk is more than just that.
Okay.
There is no character here who is shallow and without depth. I promise you.
Okay. Because it's already drawing very large amounts of annoyance from me.
Hey, man.
And we've only watched the show for what? 20 minutes?
Like every episode of Keijo made jokes at the expense of the fat women in Keijo. So, I mean, and we like that show, so.
Every time that they did that, the fat chick then kicked their ass. There was things that offset.
Oh, sure. And
you said that he's more than a walking fat joke. That's all I wanted to know.
Sure. And, I mean, like, look, we're both fat. Yeah, we understand the marginalization of fat people. We get that. Obviously, they don't need to always make a fat joke. But at the same time, the humor here, even in these first 20 minutes related to that, has been fairly tame regarding that.
Yes. If it was a constant thing, it would bug me.
I get you.
Having a pictograph like that is supposed to define a bunch of geographic locations is also a very bad way to do things for identifiers, seeing as this landscape over even 100 years would change. And therefore, if it was some ancient pictograph based on some sort of element, wouldn't work.
Yeah, but aren't the readings based on stuff now? Because
how would you do that in the past for something based on now?
What Pidge has been finding with Pidge's radio chatter device has that's recent, right? So,
but my point is how would you have a location that obviously this has been here for millennia, kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have a modern pictograph based on old information. You couldn't, because the location would look completely different a millennia ago. For example, this could be an entire forested flatland millennia ago.
It could be different 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those givens that I'm just taking at face value, especially since Zarkon, alien overlord, is speaking English. So,
well, maybe the ancient alien race of Germania mix their language with the English. There you go.
David, I don't even know what language you just spoke right now.
Okay, now, I do have to say, this is beautifully animated.
It is impeccably animated.
You can tell it's from the guys who did Avatar.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Oh yeah, there's magic in this universe. And
that doesn't bug you?
No, not at all.
That might be something that science can't comprehend.
No, that's fine. They explain... They've established that magic exists, therefore...
But I thought magic is just simply something you don't understand, and therefore... Sorry, I'm just bugging you about some comments you've made on authors, trying to say that magic can't be figured out.
Well, I mean...
I'm bugging you.
No, I realize. I have more of an issue with things where they try to take something that has been established as scientific, and then suddenly introduce magic or faith for no reason. Like, say, that movie with Will Smith where he was the last survivor in New York. What was it called again? Was it I Am Legend?
I Am Legend.
Yeah, where the whole movie, science. The science is the reason things are like this. Science is their way out of it. And in the end, just have faith, sacrifice Will Smith. Not a fan of shit like that. Where they've established it since the beginning, whatever. It's kind of like how in both Avatar and Doctor Strange, acupuncture is a thing that works. And in those universes, fine, because chi is a thing, right? In Realityville, chi doesn't exist and acupuncture is bunk.
Fair enough. Again, just teasing you.
Yeah, no, I realize. I absolutely love the cheesy 80s design of Voltron. It is so 80s. Friend of the show, Kiki, is not quite as enamored. She's like, oh my god, it is so cheesy 80s.
I have a question here, Princess. If it's the most powerful fighter in the universe, why didn't you fuckers do this 10,000 years ago and win? Just a question. Why is it up to us to clean up your mess?
We can only keep the wormholes that lead to the other lions open for 2 of your Earth hours, so you'll have to be quick about your work.
Pet peeve with any science fiction.
Go ahead.
2 of your Earth hours.
Okay, now clearly we've established that the Alteans are very scientifically advanced and have been for thousands of years.
Yes.
So they probably know what an Earth hour is.
But there's no need to actually say 2 of your Earth hours.
No,
if they just simply said 2 hours, it is a unit of measurement that they will automatically take on. You don't have to say, 2 Atlantean hours.
It's also another weird thing. They all speak English and understand each other.
Universal translator.
But
I win.
But why? No, I know. But why isn't there universal time too? You know, that kind of thing. In fact, there is an Altean language. There's an episode later where Pidge is trying to learn some Altean words.
Oh, okay.
And there's a Galran language too. The Galra have a language, but everyone appears to quote Nail from Dragon Ball Z abridged, the universal language, English.
Okay, Carlos. I need napalm and I need lots of it.
Listen, don't be mad just because this place makes Dagobah look like this shithole Dagobah is, okay?
Dagobah was a shithole.
Like, this place looks like it's nice and clean and relaxing, unlike Dagobah, which is gross and gross.
I'm sorry,
as
Carlos.
An old, gross pervert who teaches you the Jedi ways.
Centipede bunnies? No, I need napalm and I need it now.
You're the most intolerant motherfucker I know. Why can't you just love the centipede bunnies? Like,
even their faces are kind of creepy.
They're aliens.
So, were these all in place ahead of time, or did the Lions actually have to build them themselves?
I like to think the Lions.
Can you think like 10,000 years ago they were actually scratching out all the different, okay, this one looks like me, this one looks like me, this is a cool design, I want a temple.
Now, you know what? I like this headcanon. Let's go with it.
It wasn't ahead of time, or didn't make the locals make it. It's just building all these pyramids and shit. This was a great introduction to the show. I mean, we know each of the characters' archetypes. We know the actual situation. We've got everything together now for them all having their lions. So yeah, no, this is a good show.
What did you think of each of the characters?
They are so 80s archetypes. It's just ridiculous.
They are 80s archetypes, but one cool thing about the show, and this being the 3rd time I'm watching it now, there are definitely hints of their story arcs, because they do each have one, and hints of their depths of character, right? Nobody here is throwaway. Do you have any specific character observations you've noted?
Well, Shiro is so the leader archetype. The one who bonds them all together and somebody who they're all willing to listen to when the chips are down.
He does have that 80s leader voice.
Keith is totally the Matt of the team. Hard-headed, or hot-headed rather. Totally not a team player, but will totally become a team player against all his best wishes. Lance is a Matt type.
He's a different Matt type.
Except he's more of the I'm so good, look at me kind of archetype.
I'm a big fan of Lance. He's my favorite character.
Hunk is... I'm already seeing more than just being the fat guy, which I'm glad for. Obviously, he is the good with electronics, or at least fixing them. And I can get behind that. I'm glad they didn't do some sort of stupid joke about the suit being too tight or something. Mm-hmm. It just fit him.
I imagine it's like Saiyan armor. It just expands. Yeah. Or shrinks in the case of Pidge.
And Pidge is your typical... Well, no, not your tip. I was gonna say he was kind of like the Izzy of the group from Digimon, but he really isn't. He's obviously much more physically adept than any other technophile that we've had from series like that.
I think Pidge is voiced by Izzy, now that I think about it. Bex something or other? That's Pidge's voice, I don't recall.
Well, we can always look. We're in the frickin' credits. 1 second.
Well, her name is Bex something.
Bex Taylor Claus.
Yeah, Bex Taylor Claus is Pidge. Mona something or other is Izzy. I was mistaken.
Okay.
But still, yeah, Izzy is an apt comparison, but...
But Pidge is obviously much more sure of themselves. It just...
I'm sorry, what was that? Sure, mumble.
I mean, he has the most interesting story right now as far as, he's looking for his dad and his brother.
Mm-hmm.
There's the motivation right there. The fact that he's good at making electronics.
And manipulating and repurposing electronics.
Yeah, is kind of Hunk's thing, but overlap is totally allowable.
Well, I think Hunk is more the mechanic, and Pidge is more the genius, the tech.
Yeah, but still, we have the archetypes, but they're not just the archetypes. I think that's important. Because if it's just the archetypes, oh goody. I really hope Keith and Lance go beyond just their archetype really quick.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you know what Lance really is right now? He's Space Link.
He really, from the animated series, yes. He is Space Link. Maybe that's why I like him so much.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Oh, that's all the animated series so good.
And the mice, cheesy as hell. Just cheesy. But, again, I like it. I'm kind of hoping that they're, her palace moves, because if it doesn't, it's a giant weak spot.
So, some fun facts. In the old Voltron shows, Keith was the leader and piloted the Black Lion.
Okay.
And Lance, who looks, in the original anime, looks remarkably like Lance here. Lance was the Red Lion pilot. The Blue Lion pilot was initially a character whose English name was Sven, whose Japanese name was Takashi Shirogane. Takashi Shirogane is in this show, his nickname is Shiro, and he's the leader. In Go Lion, Takashi Shirogane was actually killed, and his brother kind of replaced him on the show, but in the show Voltron, they just made them the same character so they didn't have to explain that guy dying.
Fair enough, and I mean, they've already kind of laid out here, like, I'm calling it right now that the original Black pilot is probably still alive somewhere.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that. I am going to say that in the original Voltron show, Allura was actually both not an elf, she looked remarkably human despite being an alien, and piloted the Blue Lion.
That is one weird thing. They're all male. They're all male as far as the pilots go. That's kind of a bummer.
Well, it's always assuring to hear that someone doesn't want everything to be all male.
In fact, I really think you could have made Pidge female, and it wouldn't have hurt anything. Or Hunk.
Yeah. I don't
or any of the characters, really, but just from how the characters are, Pidge could have easily been female.
What do you think of that picture that Hunk showed earlier of Pidge's girlfriend?
Didn't see it long enough.
Okay.
Why?
No reason. You want to continue?
Well, now I gotta go back and look at it. Oh god. Pidge is gonna die, isn't he?
Where did that come from?
That doesn't look like a girlfriend, that looks like a sister. And in Voltron series, even I know that one of the characters having a sibling means they're gonna die.
This is killing me.
That's his parents.
No, it's not.
Either it's his parents or Pidge isn't actually a girl, is. He is. She is. Okay, no, that actually makes perfect sense, because if it's not...
Yeah, the boy is Matt. The girl is Pidge.
Okay, actually that makes a lot of sense.
I had to do this now because you talked about how they were all dudes, and I'm like, man, it's murdering me. No, he's so close.
No, and taking me back to this makes me think of either the fact that that's the father. I mean,
no, that
in a dress. Now that doesn't have to mean that it's not a boy in a dress, but
that boy in the picture is Matt. That's the brother who's with Shiro.
Okay.
Yeah, the girl is Pidge.
Okay. Well, that's gonna freak them out.
This doesn't stay a secret to them for too long. I'll
Good.
put it that way.
Good. Okay. But no, these 3 episodes, or 1 as it is, great introduction and fantastic.
Cool.
If they actually have robots / whatever the hell they are to fight Voltron, why do they really need Voltron, ultimately?
Well, my understanding is that Voltron is the most powerful weapon in the universe, but since it's pseudo-magical and needs to form a link with its pilot, which explains how those 2 little levers let them do the most ridiculous maneuvers possible, because part of it is mental command, one imagines that as the pilot gets better, Voltron's potential increases exponentially.
Perfect. Because I need to run a diagnostic test on all of the castle's defenses. This should help.
Allura, what are you doing?
Running a diagnostic test on the castle defenses and inspiring you. I believe in you, Paladin. Let fear be your guide. Form Voltron!
Oh, forget this! I'm heading back to the castle!
Please stop! Please! Have mercy on us!
You think Zarkon is going to have mercy on you? He's probably on his way right now to destroy us all.
Auto lock on engaged.
Okay, I understand she's new at this, but almost destroying your defenders is not a good motivator. Just saying.
She's just firing warning shots.
Oh, yeah.
Like in Spaceballs.
Yeah, but just like in Spaceballs, it's not supposed to be up the nose.
Almost grazing them with like 100 shots in a minute.
Like, fuck. Chill the fuck out.
Allura's pushing pretty hard.
Like, I get it. I do. 10,000 years later, you're getting your asses kicked, and this is what you got to work with. But, chill. Working them to death is just going to get them killed, and then you're going to be fucked even worse. Sheesh. This is the most childish training I've ever seen. This is great.
I enjoy that they're using tactics. They're taking Gears of War cover. Like,
yeah, right now it's great. Them versus you. Perfect. If you can build shit that can defeat Voltron, you don't need Voltron anymore, you dumb shit. You've surpassed Voltron. Like, yes, we talked earlier about the whole Voltron probably has infinite capacity and potential and everything else, and will improve with them. But still, if you can defeat the ultimate good, you've surpassed them, therefore you don't need their fucking weapon, you dumb shit.
Zarkon.
I kind of wish you sounded a little bit more like Optimus Prime. I really do.
But Optimus Prime is inherently heroic, though. Like, or did you wish he sounded more like Hawkmon?
Yes to both. Yes to both. Yeah. No, still a really good episode. I like how she actually planned the whole food fight thing. No, just really strong characters. I like what I'm seeing. The voice acting is spectacular. And it is oh so very pretty.
It's pretty. The music is great in this show,
Oh, the music. It's just appropriate.
That is definitely what I think. I think to myself, man, Voltron is just appropriate.
Dick.
You cannot accuse Voltron. You can't say that about Voltron. You can't say Voltron is not appropriate. All right, folks. So since the last time we recorded some audio for Voltron, Dave went ahead and watched the 2 seasons that are out on Netflix. I had already seen them, So we're just gonna chat a little bit about Voltron seasons 1 and 2. Let's start with the third episode, which was called
Return of the Gladiator.
Return of the Gladiator. This was the first road beast we appeared. The term road beast would later get coined in episode 2 by Hunk, I believe. One thing I like about this compared to the old Voltron show is that there's not a road beast every damn episode. And Voltron doesn't turn into Voltron every damn episode. We have some episodes of that happening. Mm-hmm. We have some episodes of them being ground-level espionage. We have some episodes that are funny and lighter, you know. And yet, I found that Voltron, it's a really well-paced show.
It is.
I think it is just... If there's a line in between you're going too slow and you're going too fast, this show is straddling that line perfectly, I think. Yeah. It's just fast enough, and it's not too fast, I think.
It doesn't feel the need of doing giant exposition bombs.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to bring out storyline during the actual event, or the occasional flashback. It doesn't just need to just drop all kinds of exposition, which is nice for a show.
Plus, a lot of things are fairly obvious, like a lot of big plot twists. Here's the thing: I've watched this with you and with my cousin Kiki, and you and her both kind of saw Pidge not being who she says she was right away. I kind of got a little surprised by that, but then I realized it made sense. I thought Hagar was an Altean before she revealed herself later, but Kiki was shocked by it. No, I think nobody was surprised by the reveal that Zarkon is the Black Paladin. Not really sure.
I said the Black Paladin, the moment she said the Black Paladin's weapon was lost. Mm-hmm. I'm like, he's alive. And then leading up to it's like, yeah, Zarkon's totally the fucking former Black Paladin.
Optimus Prime, why you do? So let's talk about this episode, The Gladiator, Return of the Gladiator. This was the first row beast. This is when they met the native creatures on planet Eris. And this episode had a moment in it. I'm not a big fan of Keith. However, I think Keith works when he's in humorous situations. So when he's like suspicious of the little guys and one hugs him and he's like, oh, you guys are pretty cute. And then the little cute thing says, thank you, in that deep, regal voice. Awesome.
I don't usually hug strangers, but, man, you are cuddly.
Thank you.
We also get our Pidge Shiro bonding moment, and this is where the show first fully reveals that Pidge is actually Katie Holt.
Yeah.
And is actually Matt's brother and not... Matt's sister and not Matt's brother.
You also get a really good sense in this one where I guess I'll continue to refer to Pidge as Pidge.
No.
That's what she goes by.
Pidge goes by Pidge by...
yeah.
She calls herself Pidge.
So, Pidge having doubt in Shiro just because of it being revealed by the aliens, you know, he had attacked and bloodlust her brother and everything else. And then at the end, when he finally gets back his memories during the battle, he's like, yeah, I did... Reveals that he did it so that her brother wouldn't be first.
And that's another thing, that's another example of that. When you first hear that Shiro attacked Matt, well, it's very obvious that Shiro didn't attack Matt. Shiro says there's another side. It's obvious that he did it to prevent Matt from fighting, right? But the show still doesn't treat you like you're stupid about it. Like, it just reveals it, and it makes sense. People who missed it now get it. People who don't feel like their intelligence is insulted. The real takeaway is that Pidge and Shiro have bonded over it. Mm-hmm. Shiro realizes that Katie is, in fact, a girl, and Pidge is an identity she used to get into the academy. And this is a big setup for what happens in the next few episodes, because the next few episodes are a bit of a mini arc as well, right? So,
well, and Shiro doesn't know it. That's why Katie did that. That's why it works so well. It's just that if Katie wants to go by the name of Pidge,
mm-hmm.
so be it. He knows who she is because of his commander and her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And that detail to Shiro doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If she wants to go by Pidge, so be it. So yeah, no, this episode was great. I mean, it started to show us how they had to work. It wasn't just one person in the cockpit controlling it, or Power Rangers style where they're all in the cockpit trying to work together. It's literally them in each one of their positions having to actually control their part and work together. I think that actually adds more style to the show than Voltron normally does.
I said it before, but since the lions are part magical and there's a psionic connection, that's how they can do such complex moves with just 2 levers. Because kind of like with Ava, oh god, there's a psychic connection, so they can think some of their actions, right? And yeah, they have to kind of think both like a foot and like Voltron entirely, and they're also connected to each other. And that's kind of neat. I kind of hope they explore that concept a little bit, like maybe they can lose their sense of self a little bit if they stay in it too long. That'd be kind of a cool future episode idea.
Look what happened to Shiro.
Okay, yes, we'll get there, don't worry. We'll get to the events of Blackout soon enough.
It's revealed that the enemy commander that they defeated...
Sendak.
See,
No, it's okay. I'm not making funny. I'm not always making fun of you when I mention a name, Dave.
I know. It's good that you know, though. That Sendak is being given another chance and that he's going to go after the people of the planet.
In order to create a diversion and attack the castle
as
of lions.
he says, they value life.
Yeah.
This leads to, I think, one of this show's first really big plot holes. They know they come from Earth. They're about to use the inhabitants of this planet against them.
And we know that they've been to Earth. Gallerans have been there. There was a ship orbiting Earth in episode 1.
And Keith.
Oh, okay, yes. Later we learned that Keith is part Galleran, and that his mother is Galleran, and that the Gallerans have been to Earth a long time ago, to the point that there was a Blade of Marmora agent there at some point. Probably Keith's mom.
Yeah.
So...
But...
why don't they use Earth as their hostage? Exactly.
Like...
Stupid Earthlings. If only we knew where they came from.
It just makes no sense. They're going to use this against them, but they're not going to use their home fucking planet?
That they
know where it is?
That they can handily. Like, Earth's technology is nowhere near enough to fight off the Gallerans. Maybe they can briefly put up a resistance. I think Season 3 is going to actually show us that Earth has probably been taken over already.
I'm hoping so, because it makes no sense for a galactic conquering power that
has taken over the majority of the universe
to leave Earth alone because reasons?
One thing about that is, in Season 1, we don't really get the scope of the fact of the Galleran Empire's size.
Yeah.
We really get that in 2. That the universe is basically Galleran run.
We get to see the map a couple times where they show red versus blue.
But
kind of thing.
It's really in Season 2, though, that they start to talk about the scope. You have the Blade of Marmora who really bring it into focus. This is so large that there's an entire sect of Gallerans who oppose it. Like...
yeah. It just... Again, that's a giant... I call it a plot hole, but maybe in Season 3 we do find out that Earth has been conquered.
It's a plot question mark right now, I think.
Plot hole.
It's not confirmed a plot hole yet. It's a maybe.
Okay, but...
It would have been nice if one of them dropped a line like, man, I hope these guys don't use Earth. Like, in this episode, in Fall of the Castle of Lions, we had Lance showing one of his many hidden facets of depth that we see in Lance. I love Lance, by the way. Talking about how much he misses home.
Yeah.
A little bit before he saved Kuran's life and basically got knocked into a coma for the next few episodes.
Yeah.
But we got to have Lance talk about home. I kind of wish he dropped a line about how, he hopes that Earth's safe and that the Gallerans didn't go back and attack it. I think that would have been a cool angle if deep down we occasionally see Lance or even Hunk or Pidge worried that their home is under fire.
Well, and that's part of the plot hole, though. They led a battleship away from Earth. The Galleran Empire knows about Earth from Shiro and other captives.
And that ship didn't go into the wormhole with them to Eris. It's still in the solar system.
Why haven't they checked back on Earth in all this time?
Probably would have been a good idea.
There's no way these 5 would not have been checking back on Earth.
The only thing I can think of is for Lance and Hunk, they're caught up in the adventure. and everyone else kind of has a stake that involves the Galran Empire. Lance and Hunk are the big ones, though, that should be asking that question. Pidge is looking for a family. She has every reason to be out here and to stay out here.
But Pidge has another reason there.
Yeah.
She has family back on Earth.
She does. She has family back on Earth, but she also sees it as her mission to bring her family back to Earth. So Pidge has a reason to be out here. I realize I'm stretching a bit, but I'm trying to make this work. Shiro has a reason to be out here. Keith has a reason to be out here now. Plus, he never really had this big connection to Earth anyway.
Uh-huh.
Lance and Hunk are the big ones who should often be checking in on Earth. You're right. They're the ones who... Because Lance, from that picture and from official bios, he has a big family that he loves.
Well, and again, going back to Pidge. Pidge would be checking back on her mother.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Like, there's no way that these characters would not have been checking back on home. Because of all of a sudden in season 3, it's like, they go to check back on home and it's like, taken over? I'm gonna be like, wait. You didn't check, it didn't happen off screen or anything. You honestly forgot about Earth until right now.
Now, this could be a practical thing, though. It could be that all of them are just on board with the idea that they need to focus on this universe-spanning empire right now. And that this is probably a better use for their time than worrying about Earth. Because if they don't do this task, Earth falls. Guaranteed.
They're running for a season and a half from the Empire, and they can't take 20 seconds to check back on Earth.
Maybe it's difficult. Maybe they can't. Like, yeah, okay, obviously we had Korani at Star Charts and stuff, but we can't forget that the Castle of Lions is still old technology.
Their lion got them there.
Yes, I realize, but they made a portal that was probably powered by the sleeping Allura, who has the power to make wormholes and shit. And we also need to remember that Voltron is exceptionally powerful, right? The lions hide hidden massive amounts of power. I will not be shocked if we start to approach Gurren Lagann levels later in the show. Because this is a galactic scope, and these animators, they animate beautifully, they animate fight scenes beautifully. We're gonna get to some Gurren Lagann levels, I hope.
And that might be possible. It isn't even actually needed. Again, potential plot hole. On to episode 4 here, though.
Yeah, this is the one where the Castle of Lions fell. Finally talking about the episode. Lance got put into a coma, saving Karan's life. Pidge was debating leaving. Well, no, not debating. Pidge was going to leave, period. I like the moment where Allura was, like, talking to the mice, and they informed her that Pidge was a girl.
Yeah.
Kind of eyes Pidge. And it's like, I don't see it. I'm going to find out. Pidge, sweetie, is there anything you want to tell your old buddy, Allura? Like, you're so awkward, Allura.
I just like when she's looking down, trying to kind of see what the mice are seeing, and Pidge grabs that one tray, puts it right into her backpack. Is very much acting like what she considers a typical male.
Messy boy. Didn't she, like, pick something out of her ear, smell it, but like, Like, yep. Very classy lady. This was the start of a little mini arc here, where the Castle of Lions got taken over by Sendak and his forces.
2-episode arc.
Yeah, a mini arc still. This is a 13-episode season. A 2-episode arc is an arc. And it still involved, if we jump to the next episode, which was, Tears of the Balmora? Is that right? If we jump to Tears of the Balmora, which is part of this arc.
No, I guess it is a 3-episode one, isn't it?
What's the one after Tears of the Balmora?
Taking Flight.
Oh, yeah, but isn't that when the Castle of Lions leaves? You know what? We're still talking about this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, follow the Castle of Lions. Castle of Lions gets taken over.
Shiro and Lancer taken captive.
Yep, that's right. But Sendak doesn't know that Pidge is still free. So Keith and Allura are giving Pidge instructions from outside, while Hunk and Karan have gone off to the Balmora to get a crystal.
Yeah.
And then
because they had to blow up their crystal to keep them from taking off.
So let's move on to the next episode then.
Pidge was actually pretty awesome in this episode.
Oh yeah,
it showed that her little blade that she had way more combat potential as a sling as a dart type weapon.
When I showed the show to Kiki, she's a big player of Phantasy Star Online 2, and I was big in Phantasy Star Online 1 as well. And I told her there's a lot of PSO-isms in the show visually. And yeah, this is totally a weapon in PSO 2, the Wired Lance.
Yeah.
The Galran Druids totally resemble like Darkfall's minions from Phantasy Star. Like,
so with this episode, basically they're trying to fix the castle now.
Yeah, Tears of the Balmora.
To take it.
Mm-hmm.
Hunk is... Do you think there's an actual romance going on here, or just friends?
Between Hunk and Shay?
Yeah.
I think Hunk and Shay are into each other.
I think so, too.
I like the pairing. Shay is very sweet and cute, and obviously Shay and Hunk like each other very much. So, yeah, I'm a total Hunk and Shay shipper. I'm totally for it.
Her, Shay's brother...
I forget his name.
Which I don't care about his name, was being a complete bastard.
But it's understandable.
It was understandable right up to the point of betraying...
up to betraying Hunk and Shay. I mean, the thing is, yeah, well, the Galrans are so oppressive that, in a way, this is kind of a parallel to the real world, when the privileged elite repress minorities and the marginalized. Some of them just want to be left alone and live, and they see the best way of doing that is just to appease their oppressors. And that's a difficult thing to fight out of, because they're the oppressors. They have all the power, right?
Yep.
We learned that the Balmora is a living creature, and that the Balmora, you know, Karan talked about rituals where they would take a crystal in a benign way that also healed the Balmora, as opposed to the Galra, who just take. And this is a bit of an environmental message, too. It's a bit of a Captain Planet, you know, replant the trees you use kind of message, right?
Well, and... yeah, but I think that was also to show just how powerful Allura was.
Well, Allura didn't do the healing just yet. That was later in the season.
I know. Well, yeah.
This episode...
you also learn why Pidge has to actually join the military as a...
Pidge Gunderson, yeah.
As Pidge versus her actual name, because she had actually hacked into their computers and had been banned.
Yeah, instead of put into a military prison, but whatever. Slightly more progressive Earth. And yeah, we got to see the beginning of Pidge, the origin story. One of these episodes, I forget if it was this one, the last one, or the one following, also showed Hagar, Zarkon's right hand, basically.
Yeah.
She used a process to steal the entire quintessence, which is this
of a planet,
which is this universe's version of the Force. It's the life energy. And by stealing all their quintessence, in fact, I think it was this episode that, I forget which one it is, but, you know, that's another environmental message. They can steal the quintessence from a whole planet, but they don't bother restoring it because they're the Galra Empire. They have access to amazing technology and magic. So, fuck the environment, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the real world parallel that, you know, it's totally cliche, but it's nice to see regardless.
And yeah, for this episode, I mean, they take back the castle and get Lance healed up.
Yeah, they get him a pod. Lance came out of his coma long enough to save Pidge. Then he gets right back into his coma. I'm a Lance and Pidge shipper. Or plants,
you know,
as some people call it.
Until I saw a couple things off of your blog site, I actually never considered that ship. In fact, I didn't consider any ships in this other than
Hunk
Lance. Well, Hunk and Shay and Lance and Allura.
Lance and Allura? That's a surprising one, because that always seemed one-sided to me.
Come on, it's totally Link Zelda.
Okay, criticism of that observation. Alien elf, Cuban boy. Lance is Cuban, by the way. Lance is Cuban. They don't outright mention this in the show, but there's other materials that talk about it. Lance is Cuban, Keith is Korean, Shiro is Japanese, Hunk is, I think, Filipino, and Pidge is white.
Okay.
Allura's all tan, Karan is all tan. We should probably talk about the comedy of the show. This episode is Taking Flight, right?
Taking Flight, and it starts off with a comedic kind of sense. In fact, we talked about a bit about this earlier in episode 1 and episode 2, where I pointed out saying 2 of your Earth hours is nonsense. Because all you have to do is say 2 hours, and you already have a common time piece. However,
And that was that.
it's kind of weird they said 2 Earth hours, because they didn't know what a second or a minute or an hour was here.
We still got a neat bit of comedy with that, where they're comparing ticks to seconds, right? They're like, I think it's bigger. And that's part of what I like about the humor of the show. The humor of the show, kind of like with Avatar The Last Airbender and with Legend of Korra, is a mix of kind of lowbrow gag humor and really smart, funny, subtle humor.
Uh-huh.
And, you get... And sometimes outright call-outs, which work in the context of the show.
Yes.
Like when Lance made fun of Keith again, and Keith was like, I held you in my arms! You told me we're a team! And Lance is like, nah, I don't remember that, man.
I also like how Lance comes out here and, we get the whole reveal that Pidge is a girl.
Uh-huh. And
he's
like the only one.
He's the only one who didn't realize it. And he's like, wait, Pidge is a girl? The castle can fly? How long was I asleep?
I like how Karan, this is such a totally sexist thing to say, but Karan was like, we were supposed to think you were a boy.
Hunk was like, yeah, I figured that out.
And now, I just want to say something here. I shipped Pidge and Lance before I realized Pidge was a girl. I don't have too many heteronormative ships, so you're giving me this one. Yeah, in this one, the castle took off. They encountered, is this the one where they encountered Rollo and Rollo's accomplice? Yeah, that's right. And Lance. I love Lance, but he's so stupid sometimes. He's my favorite character, but Lance gets suckered into getting the Blue Line captured. They get it back. We learn that there's some depth to Rollo and his crew. He talks about how he really does hope they succeed and that the Galran Empire made them this way. They never seemed like they were bad people. They were just like kind of the bad Han Solo, right?
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of Han Solo and Rollo, I think.
I think it'll matter more down the line when they start trying to bring the universe together to fight the Galran Empire.
Mm-hmm.
He might be important to maybe bring the smugglers and other outlaws onto their side.
Maybe.
Because he'll have seen that they aren't jerks.
Yeah, I think kind of like with Jet in Avatar.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the last of Rollo. And maybe Rollo will play an important factor. Like maybe Rollo will encounter... Because later we learn Matt Holt escaped with another group of rebels.
Yeah.
So maybe Matt and Rollo will cross paths.
Hopefully we don't end up seeing Rollo in a chair with a light going around him.
Getting brainwashed by in Ba Sing Se by Clancy Brown. Has Clancy Brown voiced a character in the show yet? Because I would be shocked if he hasn't yet.
Yeah, no
kidding. If he isn't being considered.
Next episode is Return to the Balmorra.
Yeah, they get back to Balmorra and they save it, and then another road beast is sent after them.
Well, I kind of got that a little bit out of order. They go back. They start winning is when the second road beast gets sent there, which actually came from a animal versus being one of their subordinates turned into it.
One of the Galra actually turned into the road beast. This one, was this chameleon.
And Allura came down and managed to convince the Balmorrans to actually evacuate, even though the Balmorra was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And right as they were about to evacuate, that's when they realized that the energy from the crystal from the ship could be used to heal the Balmorra.
That's right.
Though it could cost Allura her life.
Yes, one of the many times Allura has been
almost
told that she could be killed by something and survived it handily.
Yeah.
Allura's tough. This episode was a good fight episode. After the bit of the heavy drama of the last few episodes and a bit of the lighter comedy with Rollo and whatnot, this was an episode you needed because you kind of got some team bonding. Even though Keith kind of annoys me, I think Keith works well with people other than Shiro. You pair Keith and Lance or Keith and Hunk together, and they work. And
I think Keith and Shiro works just fine.
We'll get to that in another episode. Keith and Shiro, to me, are boring together, and they're great with everyone else.
Boring, but they work great together. It's just...
sorry. I mean, the characters work with each other really well.
Yeah.
But you get moments like Keith and Lance is like, hang on, don't be a crazy person. Let's handle this with... Let's plan. And Keith is all surprised Lance has a plan. And it's like, of course I have a plan. Why do you think I'm here if I'm not a capable member of the crew, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think Keith and Lance work a lot better together in terms of interesting character dynamics. This Robeast that they begin fighting really in the next episode is an asshole, though. This Robeast, like Kiki and I, we were like, this thing... Remember the fourth angel in Ava? And again, I can't believe I'm making Ava comparison, but remember what a prick that thing was to fight? Because it had lasers for days and could laser you from anywhere? Honestly, you know what this Robeast is like? It's like fighting a fucking beholder. It has eyes everywhere and lasers for days. But they start that in the next episode, I believe.
Next episode is Rebirth.
Yes. They fight the chameleon Robeast. It has lasers for days, roaming eyes. They didn't actually beat this Robeast. This Robeast had to be beaten by the healed Balmora itself. This thing was a prick.
Yeah.
It comes back later.
They really did not have a chance to defeat it. They just weren't up to it.
It also gives you an idea of how formidable the Robeasts are. Robeasts are not to be fucked with, right? Like,
they're not Power Rangers level creatures.
And that's why I like that the Robeasts are rare. We get a couple this season and a couple next season, and that's it. But the Robeasts, because the Robeasts are kind of disturbing. The process of making a Robeast involves taking a living creature and mutating it horrifyingly into this cyborg giant that is on par with Voltron.
And
like
that's the key there that I keep on saying is, if you can create things that can take on Voltron, number one, why don't you send multiple?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you no longer need Voltron. Voltron is a ego piece.
Well, I think the idea is that Voltron, with the right pilots, has the potential to be obscenely powerful. It's just right now these guys are learning.
Yet, if he had never gone looking for Voltron, they never would have had to have fought Voltron. They literally...
Nobody said Zarkon was smart, okay?
Literally, he created his enemy.
No, I realize Zarkon... We'll talk about Zarkon and his motivations soon, because Zarkon has a cool voice and some cool abilities and shit, but he's still kind of a shitty villain. We'll get to that by the end of Season 2, though.
Sure.
Yeah, in this one, the Balmora's healed. They didn't beat the asshole chameleon monster, because it comes back later. We get a nice touching moment between Hunk and Shay, and all is well on the Balmora, seemingly. Apparently, this, one would imagine, is a nice source of crystals for them to use in the Castle of Lions now. And again, more of the environmental message of the show, right? Like, you know, if you take care of the environment will take care of you. It's not a bad message, I think.
Next episode is Crystal Venom.
What was this episode again?
That was her father in the computer.
I really like this episode. This is the one where the AI, which was basically using King Alfor's mind, got corrupted by one imagined Sendak, starts taking over the ship and starts trying to kill everyone. A more really good Keith Lance moments in this one. And there was the really cool moment where Sendak's all over Shiro's head, so Shiro fucking ejects Sendak into space. One presumes killing him.
Yeah, like...
Although Zarkon survived in space just fine, so who knows, maybe Sendak's still floating out there somewhere.
At first, I didn't really like this episode, but I understood why it was there. Number one, having her father in the computer was way too much of a easy fallback. It was keeping her from growing into her potential.
In a way, it's kind of an easy way to kill someone and add some stakes too, right? Because King Alfor is now well and truly dead.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I mean, it was kind of creepy, the amount that she was relying on her dead father.
True.
Yes, he did that so that she'd have assistance, but anything like that would just hold her back from becoming the leader she needs to become. So killing him off made perfect sense.
She is one of the last Alteans. I kind of get that, you know, and she's relatively young. So I kind of get that she just misses him terribly, and that she could be brainwashed a little bit by this corrupted AI, right?
Yeah.
And this was a good Allura episode. Allura got a lot of good development out of this. Shiro got a lot of good development out of this. We got good Glance and Keith moments. This was overall just a great episode about the castle trying to kill them because Sendak corrupted it. It was super good. I really enjoyed this one.
I think for Pidge and Hunk, it really taught them that while they can try and finagle around with the technology, they really need to start treating it with a little bit more respect. Because honestly, for that sort of thing, it should have been in its own lab, completely disconnected from the rest of the ship, firewalled, everything.
There is also kind of the moral question, is it right to pry into a cryogenically frozen person's thoughts? Because, I mean, one assumes it would not cause them any suffering. And yeah, obviously this backfired because Sendak was able to exert some influence over the ship's computer. Mm. But if it hadn't, would that have been morally right? See...
Morally...
I argue no, it's not right.
It's not right because you're still violating a person's thoughts.
And yet...
On the other hand, when you're the downtrodden resistance, fuck those guys.
This is a thing, and we see this in the real world with people asking, is it okay to punch a Nazi, right? And here's the thing. These oppressive fucknuggets are the reason marginalized people are so marginalized. At that point, punching them isn't violence anymore, it's self-defense. The Galra, and later we get a bit of prejudice from Allura towards Keith when they learn that Keith is part Galran. And there are a few episodes that Allura just wants nothing to do with Keith, and that's not fair to Keith, right? As much as I shit on Keith, he didn't deserve that.
No.
And Allura makes up for that later, but... I've seen that people are saying that Allura was being racist, and I don't think that's exactly right, because the Galran are the privileged, they're the established paradigm. You can't be racist towards a Galran in this universe. You can be prejudiced towards a Galran who has offered their assistance and helped you, and you can be a real prick to one who has done nothing wrong to you. But you can't systemically have racism against the Galra. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah... I mean, we're jumping way ahead, but that topic, yeah, it isn't racism. It wasn't fair.
No, it was not fair. Keith did not deserve to have that treatment.
It wasn't even really fair how she was treating the
Blade of Marmora.
Yeah, that group, because she can try and say, well, you've had 10,000 years, you haven't done shit, but here's the thing. If you have a couple hundred people scattered over a bunch of sectors, or even tens of thousands, and he has millions.
He has quadrillion. This is an empire of quadrillions of loyal subjects.
So,
if that number is probably too small.
Yeah, like you can't just take a shot in the dark. You've got to plan for the long haul. You can't just throw your guys away willy-nilly. You don't do that. So I understand where she's coming from, though. You have a race of people who you were obviously on good terms with. I mean, your Black Paladin leader was one of their race, so you obviously trusted them.
Yeah.
I mean, he helped build Voltron.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Alfor were friends at some point.
And his race... then backstab, destroyed your world, wiping out your race from the galaxy, and have done all these horrible things, you're going to have some very sour thoughts towards them, and it doesn't, it's not even going to be on a conscious level anymore. It's going to be, well, we hate Nazis.
Yeah.
And that's not even a conscious thing. We hate Nazis because Nazis did
Nazis.
Bad fucking things.
Yeah, fuck
Nazis equal evil. There is no way this equation goes from Nazis equal good.
That's right. And later, Allura had to learn that not all Galrans were Nazis. That's the thing.
Well,
similarly, not all Germans were part of the Nazi party. There were Nazis in name who were actively trying to kill Hitler and free prisoners.
But that's why we make the distinction between we hate the Germans, which we don't.
Well, that's right.
Or we hate the Nazis, which were the enemy.
That's right. Fuck Nazis.
Exactly.
But we'll talk more about that when we get to season 2. Kind of. That was my fault. What's the next episode?
Episode 10 is Collection and Extraction.
This was the penultimate episode of season 1. I also really liked this episode because we got to get we got to see. This was a good ground level infiltration episode. Like, we don't need Voltron in every episode, right?
Yes.
So we got to see these 5 paladins showing their mettle and showing that they're not just pilots, they're also soldiers and warriors. And they had to go and do a mission that required certain levels of tact and efficiency. And they faltered a little bit, like Keith shouldn't have gone off on his own, but he still got valuable intel fighting the stupid PSO Chaos Sorcerer, the Druid. Hey, fighting druids, those guys are assholes to fight. Even later, it takes like 2 people to fight a druid. Like, these teleporting motherfuckers just aren't to be fucked with.
And in this one, Allura gets captured.
Yeah, Allura shows that Alteans have the ability to change their size and color to kind of blend in and negotiate with other races. Allura shows her mettle as a combatant, but we've known that for some time. She just doesn't always get to show it. She's voiced by Jasper. She better kick the shit out of things once in a while, right? And Allura got captured saving Shiro. I enjoyed this episode, and it was a good setup for the finale of the season. And the finale of the season was the Black Paladin, where we learned that Zarkon was in fact the former Black Paladin of Voltron, and in fact still has a connection with the Black Lion, enough that in close proximity he can actually tear Voltron apart by will. We also learned that Zarkon is not to be fucked with because Keith and the Red Lion tried to fight him, and Zarkon, outside in space with just his Bayard, was beating the Red Lion.
Yeah, like, he's formidable to a fault, actually. Because, remember how surprised she was that he was still around after 10,000 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's gotta be due to Altean sorcery.
Yeah, there's sorcery involved. No small measure of quintessence, for sure.
Now, I say that, but it could also be the link with the Black Lion.
You think the Black Lion might be keeping him alive?
Like, we know that the original pilot, the original paladins, were killed. But if one of them had stuck around, maybe being a pilot of Voltron keeps you alive indefinitely.
This is yet another Ava comparison. Fuck me, man. Come on, Voltron, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I thought this was a good finale. I know I was complaining about the Star vs. the Force of Evil finale we did earlier today. I thought this was the opposite of that. This finale kind of resolved the story of Season 1, gave us good action beats, gave us a good bang to finish the season, but also set up for the second season because Hagar got her last hit on the Castle of Lions and on Voltron.
But they only got away because of a spy.
Oh yeah,
the blade.
They set up the blade of Marmora because we had Thace. We later learned his name is Thace. Or was he mentioned before? One or the other. Thace had actually brought down the shield and let them escape because Thace is actually part of the blade of Marmora.
Yeah. So we end this episode with the ship going through into a really screwed up black hole system.
Yeah, into that wormhole, which was not normal. And that leads to Season 2!
So overall, I mean, Season 1 was a hell of a good show. I mean, the writing is strong. The voice actors are great.
The voice director is Andrea Romano, same voice director of the Avatar shows, Justice League Unlimited.
And it shows.
So many things.
It shows in how well that she's done on this. The animation is just stellar. Top notch.
The animation is gorgeous, and the fight scenes are beautiful.
Yes.
The music is great.
Also, they don't recycle scenes.
Except for the Voltron transformation scene.
Well, that's allowed. That's like a Sailor Moon transformation or anything like that. I wave my hand at that. That's not even reuse at that point. It's just, why would you do it differently every time? You have to save some money somewhere. But other than that, like, the old Voltron shows reused animation for battles and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So it's nice to see that doesn't really happen here.
Yeah, there's a lot of money and time sunk into the animation of this show, and it has paid dividends for Netflix because they've committed to 70-some episodes, which is enough for, at 13 episodes a season, 6 full seasons. So, Voltron ain't going away anytime soon, which makes me very happy because I really like it. Shall we discuss Season 2?
Let's jump right into Season 2.
So Season 2 begins with Across the Universe. And in this episode, we get to see what happened. Well, we see that the lions are separated. They're flung from the wormhole's walls. We see that Shiro and Keith are separated, with Shiro injured because he tried to fight Hagar in the last episode and did not win at all.
She kind of sliced him open a little bit, and he had a glowing wound.
Yeah, a magical wound on him. We got to see... this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say Keith and Shiro are kind of boring together, because they work too well together and they're too friendly and gel with each other, but it's not dynamic at all. It's just kind of, this is the leader and the second in command.
Well, I think the important thing to take from this episode as far as the Shiro-Keith pairing is that Shiro has already realized that he might get killed or he might die from this wound, and that Keith is his proper successor to the Black Lion.
Which is funny
now,
because Sorry, go on.
Now, whether that is actually the best thing for the team, however, or whether the Black Lion would even work with Keith, is something that I think they haven't really gone with it. Shiro can say, oh, well, you're the next leader of the team. But here's the thing. They all picked Shiro because Shiro is Shiro.
Yeah.
He's a born leader. But if Shiro suddenly died off, Keith would not be the natural successor to just slide into that position. It's not like Pidge's brother has popped up and is a born leader to take over the role or anything else. It's Shiro can choose that, but just like he tells I want to say sorry. Oh, fuck me.
Okay, so hang on. Use your words. Sound it out.
Our chief bad guy.
Zarkon?
Optimus
Prime?
Yeah.
Let's call him Optimus Prime.
I was going to say Black Optimus.
Black Optimus. Call him Black Optimus.
Zarkon. Like he tells him in a later episode here. You don't get to choose who works the Black Lion. It does. That's why that link is partially broken and weakened. Because Shiro's kind of like, no, the guy behind me chooses, and I'm showing him respect, you're not, oh look, he shot you, kind of thing. So, Keith may be a perfect fit for the Red Lion, but I think Keith would be kind of like, okay, I'm leader now, and the rest of people's like, dude, you're the Red Lion, we gotta find somebody new for the Black Lion, because you're not leader material, and he's not.
Well, okay, let's be fair to Keith here. And again, this is hard. Fuck that guy.
I like Keith, actually.
I know you do. And this is funny because you like Keith and you're saying he's not a leader. I don't like Keith, and I'm about to defend him here. So, Keith did show he can use the Black Lion in this episode. I imagine that any paladin could probably use any lion when the stakes are high. Any lion will probably allow another paladin to use them.
Maybe.
In a pinch, probably. Keith has been being primed by Shiro. There are later episodes in the season where we see that Shiro is trying to push this angle further about Keith taking over should something happen to Shiro. And we do see Keith, like, doing some leadership quality type stuff. Like, he does it mainly with Hunk, but he's, like, praising Hunk's performance and kind of, in that episode where he and Hunk had to go get the lens from the giant space worm, he really shows his chops a bit and shows that he can work with a subordinate and encourage them, right? We also need to consider that in past Voltron shows, Keith was the leader. Keith was the Black Lion pilot. Lance was the Red Lion pilot. And the Blue Lion was piloted by a variety of people. In one incarnation, it was Sven, who is the character that Takashi Shirogane initially got translated as. He's now Shiro. In one incarnation, it was Princess Allura that piloted the Blue Lion. And there might be a shakeup here where Shiro does die or becomes part of the greater universe or some shit, right? But we'll talk about that more when we get to it. This episode kind of gave us that connection, but that was the boring part of the episode. The exciting part of the episode was Paige kind of going slightly insane by herself in the little in the wreckage in space, and Allura and Karan being sent through the time loop over and over. Yeah, and Paige is in the wreckage, kind of slightly going crazy, but it's not horrifying. Like she eventually helps Karan and Allura escape. We get to see past versions of Karan.
That was funny. Them going back through the portal over and over again, him getting younger and younger to the point where he was a rebellious youth, he was a kid, then he was a baby.
I liked him when he was at his prime and he was flexing all the time. He was like, "Don't worry, princess, I'll save us." That was my favorite Karan. I like how as a little kid he still had the mustache.
Yep.
Yeah, Across the Universe was an okay start to season 2, but this is the episode that really cemented to me that the show... I wouldn't say there's a central protagonist in Voltron, but I would say that Shiro and Keith are probably our two more important characters, which makes me sad because I'm not a big fan of either of them in and of themselves.
Whereas I think it's Shiro and Pidge.
Really?
Shiro and Pidge get the most airtime, not including Allura.
Oh, fine, but I mean, still, Pidge's importance is still ranked a bit below Keith, right?
I don't think so.
In terms of, the show tells us otherwise. Keith
up
always gets the big action scenes.
Up to this point, though, I would say it was Shiro and Pidge. It doesn't become Keith up until his blood starts being mentioned.
That's not true at all. Like he has big roles in the several season 1 episodes. He's the guy who he's the guy who figured out the sword technique for Voltron. They often show him being the last guy to make his move when Voltron kills something. He gets to fight the Chaos Sorcerer guy by himself. He's the guy who had to save Lance's line. He's often the guy who will talk about, he'll point out where the others are doing something wrong when they're inside Voltron. He's the guy who got to fight Zarkon one-on-one at the end of season 1. Keith is exceptionally important in this show, and way more so than Pidge, even if Pidge has had more airtime. I would like it if Pidge was more important than Keith, but that's not the case right now. This episode was kind of dull, I thought, but the next episode makes up for it. What was the next episode called again?
The Depths.
Yeah, that one made up for it because that was Lance and Hunk, which are just way more interesting characters in my humble opinion. And in this one, they got to be safe and warm.
Yes, in the middle of a merpeople war triggered by a mind-controlling plant.
Yeah, that alien worm, Cthulhu alien thing is totally freaky, man. We learned that Lance, the Blue Lion, is actually very comfortable in water and has sonic abilities.
We also learned that Lance is not too easy to mind control.
Well, he got mind controlled because he ate the food, but
he shrugged that shit off really quick.
Yeah, he got help, though. I like Lance, but he was still pretty enthralled until he got rescued by the rebels and had a jellyfish put on his head, which it turned out he didn't even need because it was the food that was taking him over. This was a fun episode. We got to see Cthulhu monsters. We got to see Lance and Hunk doing good, cool shit, and
we also saw that there are actual races of people out in the universe that are free, mainly because they've kept themselves hidden and isolated.
Yeah, when the Queen was like, "We need to talk to the galaxy again," I was like, "Hey, when you do, maybe avoid the Galaran Empire, because they might want to try taking you over." I'm just saying. I really like it. I really like Into the Depths. Or the Depths, whatever it's called. Yeah, I like these two characters. I think these two characters. It's telling that Lance and Hunk can carry an episode entirely by themselves, when the past episode was able to focus on Shiro, Keith, Pidge, Allura, and Karan all at the same time. I guess Lance and Hunk just keep us all safe and warm. Safe and warm.
Next episode is Shiro's Escape.
Which one is that one again? Yes, this is when Shiro had the memories of escaping with the aid of the Blade of Marmora, and Ulas, the agent who helped him escape, actually infiltrates their ship. Well, basically, they came looking for him in this sector, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I'd still love to know how he got on the ship.
Oh yeah, he probably had a little ship or some shit. I don't know. This is where we got to see that Allura does not trust any Galrin at all, no matter what their intentions may be. And you're right. Well, you talked about it before, but Allura's hate is understandable. Yes, it's kind of like how I always say I hate men. I don't hate specific men. I just hate men in general because men have done horrible things throughout history and today. That doesn't mean I judge every man when I meet them. I don't immediately think every individual man I meet is a monster. But it does mean that in general, yeah, I got some hate on. And Allura's hate for Galrins is justifiable and understandable. What is not okay is that individuals just trigger that hatred from her, and she gives them no chance. Even after Ulas sacrificed himself to save them, Allura was still shit-talking Ulas. And I remember that Shiro did not like it at all.
No, she still figured that he had betrayed them, and that's why monster number 3 had popped up. But
Yeah.
even though he had sacrificed himself, it was like, he caused it in the first place, so fuck him.
They fight that Robeast in this episode, right?
Yeah.
This Robeast is interesting because this is the first Robeast that was made from like an innocent victim that was not willing. Hagar, this guy was declared a traitor by Zarkon, even though he was not a traitor. We kind of get a bit of Zarkon's style kind of being a little ineffective. He's unfortunately not following the villain rules. He's become a little too obsessed with the Black Lion this season. This Robeast got formed because an innocent loyalist to Zarkon got accused of treachery and got turned into a Robeast against his will.
You would have thought that Hagar, is it Hagar or Hagar?
It's Hagar. It's the same. Her name is the same as the playable character from Final Fight.
Hagar. You would have thought that with her being able to interrogate a person in their mind, that she would have been able to actually see the truth.
It's entirely possible that Hagar knew this man was innocent. And it's like, well, you know what? I need to make a Robeast. This fucker's on Zarkon's bad side. Yeah, we're going to make a Robeast out of this guy. Which is horrifying, by the way.
It is.
This Robeast is also a bitch to fight, because it could fucking absorb the explosive crystals and use them for power, and it tried to eat Voltron in the Castle of Lions a couple times. Ulas had to sacrifice himself in order to defeat this one, which was a sad moment and had more tension because, as mentioned, Allura was still shit-talking him.
Yeah.
Was it at the end of this episode that Zarkon was just right on top of them? Or is it the next episode I'm thinking?
I think it's the next...
Is the next episode Greening the Cube?
Yes.
Okay, so at the end of this episode, though, we see that Keith actually has one of the Blade of Marmora daggers. He's actually had this in Season 1. There are scenes where you can briefly see him using that dagger. So it's not something that just came out of thin air.
But the emblem has always been hidden.
Yeah, and then we learn that, Keith has a Blade of Marmora dagger, and we start to get the first glimpses that Keith may not be entirely human. Greening the Cube wins the award for dumbest episode title ever, because that is the dumbest episode title I've ever heard in my fucking life. They could have just called it The Cube, but whatever. In this one...
Well, you do get it.
No, I get it. It's just stupid. The message of this one is nice. We're all made of the same cosmic dust. It's kind of a neat message about how nature has its own machinery, and the machine workers of this one planet learned how to make basically nature mechs and nature guns and shit, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they went from being metal workers, being able to form and manipulate metal in whatever way they wanted, to becoming rebels and then using that same technological progress to be able to manipulate nature.
Mm-hmm.
And being better at that than they were at the metal.
Paige learns that maybe she has more of a connection to nature than she thought because she was never an outdoor person. Good job, Paige. And she learns...
No, not good, Paige.
No, good. Fuck nature. And I was just talking about saving the environment. Now I'm all like, fuck the environment. Paige unlocks her line's power, which is to shoot things that turn into vines, which defeated the bullshit cubes that Voltron had to fight that just sent all their weapons back at them. Stupid bullshit cubes.
Also, learning that the captured king of this race was actually a giant piece of crap.
Sold out his own people, lived in comfort while they suffered. Yeah.
And then did videos that he was being tortured.
Oh yeah, that was the worst part.
Yeah.
Still though, this was a really good episode. It was a Pidge-centric episode, and those tend to work out really well, I think. Pidge unlocked her power. It was at the end of this episode, though, that the Zarkon's base was just right on top of them. So, yeah, at the end of the greening the cube, Zarkon's base was right on top of them. And the entire next episode, Eye of the Storm, is basically... It's a recreation of that Avatar episode where Azula basically didn't let them sleep. Yeah, it was that. So let's talk about that one. I really like Eye of the Storm because I kind of like the idea that Zarkon, realizing that with Hagar's power he can track the Black Line across the universe, just keeps attacking the Castle of Lions and forcing them to keep using their diminishing resources to escape, and they end up not being able to warp by the time it's all said and done. They do end up getting away because Kuran's weird condition, the Slipperies, saves the day and lets them do one final warp.
Not just that. The cookies that Hunk made.
Yeah, they were good enough as Teledyne crystals or whatever it was called.
One-time use crystals.
Very bad to that they had to hold it in that laser chamber, but still kind of funny that they had to hold that position. Like they each had to hold a very awkward position and hopefully not die. I would have gotten us all killed in this position. I really like this episode. I like, again, the Keith Lance moment. They were looking for the pool. The pool's on the roof. And again, Keith works with comedy. He's like...
What the heck? Stupid Altean pools.
That line had me rolling. Just Keith going, stupid Altean pool. Just fucking aliens.
Yeah.
I believe this is also the episode that Pidge tried to learn Altean.
Yes.
What was that? Can we bring up that clip of the 2 bullshit words that she had to do?
Welcome to Introductory Altean.
Awesome. We're finally gonna learn the Altean language.
Level beginner. Safety off.
Safety? That's weird.
Clan mural.
Clan mural. What's that?
Clan mural.
Clan mural?
Kazarli squil.
Oh, Quiznak.
Kazarlis. I can't even do it. I speak Portuguese and I can't do that. Kazarlis.
I think you just got cut in half.
That's fucking
Also,
great.
safety had better be fucking off.
I like that. Safety off. Safety. That's weird. Why would that be there?
Why is that a feature?
I know the Altans have a little bit of the warrior race thing going. There are some comparisons I've seen made of Allura to Starfire from Teen Titans. They kind of fit depending on the version of Starfire. But what the fuck, man? That's learning language.
I don't know. I think that's how the Klingons learn language.
I bet you when the Altans roam the universe, people who picked Altan as their second language is probably somewhere around 0, including Altans. Because everyone seems to speak the universal language, English, which I'm just going to chalk up to Star Trek Universal Translators.
Yep.
I really like Eye of the Storm. This was a very intense and funny episode at the same time. Yeah, just that. It was a good, thrilling episode, I thought. What's our next one?
The Ark of Tajir.
Oh yeah, the Ark of Tarjir. That's the one where the weird machine aliens had that ark they had to get off the acid planet.
This one was, I mean, yeah, they're doing good things and everything else. They're, helping the maggot people and...
Maggot people? What the fuck?
Look like maggot.
The fucking maggot people... incredibly unfair thing for you to say. Fucking maggot people. We changed one letter in that, and we got an anti-gay slur, Dave.
It's like a maggot with arms.
True. I kind of took them as more biological machine people because the way they talked. I also like that they were like, wait, where are the 5 lions? We only have 4 right now. I feel we're more comfortable with 5. Like, fuck you, asshole. We're just trying to save you. I like this. I like that, they could have done the cliche thing and make the planet lava, but they decided to do the yellow acid thing, which as a fan of Super Metroid, I completely appreciate.
Yeah.
They got some Super Metroid vibes from this. We also got to meet one of Zarkon's more cowardly commanders. It's like, we're gonna kamikaze ourselves into the Ark. And they're all like, Repetsa! Which I still don't know what that means. And then he's like, prepare my escape pod. They had not yet figured out that the Black Line was how Zarkon was tracking them. So
Allura thought that she was the one who was being tracked.
And Keith thought he was the one who was being tracked.
Which makes kind of sense, because the moment she woke up is when they sensed her Altean energy in the universe again.
That's right. Keith thought it might have been him because of his Galran blood, and he didn't exactly say why. So they take a pod, they get away from the ship. Pidge's hyper turbo thing fucking destroys the pod, but we learn that the Red Lion can go help him from a long distance away, which is handy. And at the end of this episode is where Shiro says, nah, it's got to be the Black Line. They're tracking us through the Black Line. There's no other way.
Yeah.
What did you think of this episode?
It was good enough. I mean, it shows that the Galran Empire does just kind of... They won't outright kill you, but they'll make it so that you probably are going to die.
Yeah, they believe in that bullshit strongest survive mentality.
Yeah.
That idiot villain, Marvel villain Apocalypse believes in. Apocalypse, of all people, believes in the survival of the fittest. Apocalypse. Next episode is my favorite, Space Mall. This was kind of like Eye of the Storm. This was a good... this was an episode with that had a lot of good humor, but also gave us a lot of good drama and action with Shiro and his mental battle against Zarkon and reestablishing control over the Black Line. I really like this episode. This episode gave me those Pidge Lance moments I crave. There's an Earth store with bullshit Earth game systems. How did they get those? Obviously, the Galran Empire has been there, but...
As much as I like the mall segment, the important part here was Shiro. Shiro working with the Black Lion, learning a little bit of its history, trying to increase their bond to break...
Zarkon's hold.
Zarkon's hold.
Just call him Optimus Prime.
No. Zarkon's hold. And Zarkon basically making the wrong comments to piss off the Black Lion. Or Shiro making the right ones to have him be trusted.
A combination of both, no doubt. Turns out Shiro had never left the ship in the first place. It was all a weird mental thing. The Black Line showed some scenes from the past where we saw Alfor and Zarkon apparently being friends and working together, and
that planet may have even been
Altea. It might well have been,
because that's where the lions were built.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that it would be built on Altea.
Yeah, if King Alfor was a galactic leader, it would make sense. I really liked the mall segments. They were my highlight. We got Weird Al Yankovic doing a voice in this episode.
Yes, we did.
Which was really cool. We got to see Hunk become an alien chef. Do you think that one mall stand would get a Michelin star after this?
He became a space iron chef.
He did become a space iron chef.
I just like how he was giving the store owner shit over, this isn't medium. Does that look medium?
Do it again. He was channeling his inner Gordon Ramsay a little bit. I love the Lance Pitch moments, fishing through the fountain to get the game console money. I like in the end, it turns out that, the Castle of Lions does not have a composite
analog
video. Yeah, there's no composite inputs. I have a difficult time believing that between Pidge, Karen, and Hunk, they couldn't wire this system into a display somewhere.
Sure, eventually.
But
it wouldn't just be a plug and play.
Yeah, I mean, still, they could figure something out.
They would.
I like that Lance bought a cow, Kaltenecker. Well, and I like that they were racing by. They're like, "Did you buy a cow?"
It came with the purchase. They didn't buy the actual cow. It just came with.
I hope they don't forget they have this cow on the Castle of Lions.
Well, fresh milk.
You know,
or
that's not what I was thinking.
In times of need, it's an emergency food source. It's their menchie.
That's what I'm more concerned about. I'm more concerned about.
In fact, I would call it menchie.
Now, I believe in humanely treating anything you're going to eat. I believe you make this thing feel awesome and you kill it humanely in a way that is very peaceful. And then let's have us some filet mignon. You know what? I'd miss being out in space so long? I'd be craving a beef Wellington so bad. Be like, okay, we got the meat, we got the filet. Now we just need some puff pastry, some mushrooms, some English mustard. We're going to get some beef Wellington going. Granted, we can only make like 2, but still. Hey, there are more parts of meat. You got sirloins, you got beef around, you got so many cuts there you can use, right? So, we are monsters!
You got a beef with it?
A little bit. I like Space Mall. Big fan of Space Mall.
Next one after that is the book...
The Blade of Marmora?
Yeah.
See, between Eye of the Storm and Blade of Marmora, we kind of... And even the Arc of Targier, we kind of needed this episode to kind of lighten the mood a little bit.
A bit, yeah.
The Blade of Marmora is where we get to see that apparently you can build anything on a star bordered by 2 black holes if you just really bullshit the design.
Well, and it's kind of funny that they actually have technology above and beyond the main fleet. Because, I mean, they made a dimension in space-time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the last base.
Yeah.
This base was on a sun.
But that's my point. They have technology above the main fleet. They just don't have the manpower to fight back.
They don't have the people power, for sure. We should mention that in this episode, in the following episodes, and in some of the past episodes, they have been interspersing scenes of Thace doing his operative work on the main ship. And he's been sending messages to the Blade of Marmora, but at some point he also gets caught here because they're onto his plan. And he gets interrogated by Hagar as well. In this episode, this was another Keith-centric episode again. He gets the most play out of any of these characters, even Shiro. I do like that he figured out the puzzle, and I do like the flashback scene we got with his dad. I actually, despite not being a big Keith fan, I was actually totally okay with this Keith episode. I thought this gave him a bit of the development I've been wanting for him since the beginning.
I also found it kind of funny that the Red Lion would not listen to anybody and went and started attacking their base because Keith was in danger.
Yeah, the Red Lion's very temperamental, so I like how they're like, call off your line! We're in the middle of a star, surrounded by 2 black holes, call off your line! You're gonna get us all killed! I like that he got to keep his sword and it went into true mode, or whatever they call it.
Showing that he had to have blood.
Oh yeah, did Thace actually get caught in this episode, or was this the episode he was interrogated, but managed to lie to bullshit?
He managed to bullshit his way out.
Yeah. In this episode, they actually brought the Blade of Marmora's leader, whose name I forget, onto the Castle of Lions. He took off his mask, he's this older Galra, and he has met Allura. Now, Allura, presumably this is where she learns about Keith's heritage, because they outright say that Keith has Galran blood in him.
Yeah, and that was one thing I didn't like, is when I went between this episode and the next one, I thought I missed something. Like, I thought I was missing an episode because she is so stone cold to him. They don't reveal that she knows until a little bit in. It's like, well, why did this happen off screen?
No, I want that to happen off screen. I don't think that's necessary. That's an unnecessary scene. You don't need to see her realization of that, because that's not what's important. What's important is how she's taking it. What's important is that Allura is not okay with Keith being part Galran, but what's interesting is that none of the other paladins give a shit. Not even Lance gives a shit. Lance has his gripes with Keith, but Lance at no point in his gripes with Keith says anything about his Galran heritage at all. Hunk brings it up more, and it's more just in an inquisitive sense. Like, Lance doesn't bring it up. Nobody else is angry that Keith is... In fact, in the Beta Traz episode, Lance actually talking about Keith, and he says nothing bad about him. Mm-hmm. He says Keith, he goes fights things and shit. I don't know, he's fine. Like...
Well, I mean, in this scene right here, They could have had Keith right beside him, have the blade on his belt, and just simply had Allura see the blade.
We don't need that, though. We don't need to see her reaction.
I think we do.
That's an unnecessary scene.
I don't think it is.
It would do nothing. It would do nothing because
3 seconds on screen and I've already solved the problem.
There's no problem.
I think there is.
You're wasting 3 valuable seconds
No, I'm not.
to accomplish something that isn't necessary because we see the fallout of it later, which is much more important.
I think her reaction should have been there.
We see her. I don't understand what the need is for her reaction. What's the point of having that on screen?
Okay.
What do we get out of it?
Here's the reason. She's gotten to know Keith over
a season and a half.
17 episodes.
Yeah.
And for her to suddenly go from Keith is one of my paladins to this dirty scum is part of the enemy. I want to see that reaction. I want to see when she realizes that one of her own is like that, and then her to just shrug it off. Yes, we see her later being in that role, but I want to see her reaction when she realizes one of her allies is this dirty half-blood.
We get that already. We get that from how she acts so cold towards him after.
It was so jarring for me in the next episode to have her react like that it was out of place.
I disagree strongly. I think that if you had actually wasted time showing her reaction, then you have all this unnecessary shit later of her being angry at him. Like, this is more of a subtle thing. Like, in a way, she talks about it later, how she considers the Paladins her family, right? And you can have issues with family where you just don't talk for a while, where you just start drifting apart. And that is something much better conveyed over time where you don't even realize it's happening. Because in real families, that's how it goes. You have this scene of her reacting to it. It's just an unnecessary 3 seconds of time.
Again,
you just didn't need it at all.
I found it so jarring to the point I was looking for an episode that I had missed.
Well, I mean, I don't understand why you would. I found this jarring. I did not find this jarring at all. I found it well done. Like, I thought, like, this show doesn't show us too much unnecessary filler. Generally, that stuff is relegated to moments of humor that are usually welcome in the middle of all the action and drama, right?
Yeah, and
so
we'll have to agree to disagree because her sudden hate felt out of place.
I don't think so. I think she has hated Gallerans for so long, and she's demonstrated this with how she talked about Ulas, and even her reception of the Marmora leader here was very cold. So I don't think it's out of place at all that we just see her acting cold later.
I didn't realize she even knew until somebody actually said in the show about it.
Yeah, and that's when you're supposed to find out.
But that's, you see her acting cold to him, and then it's revealed that she knows. It just felt.
They're not insulting your intelligence. They don't have to Da Vinci Code this.
It doesn't have to be insulting, but when I get to that point, I think I've missed an episode because there's no way they did that off screen. Well, they did it off screen.
Well, you know what? You think it's necessary? I really don't. I really don't see the point of having that, and I'm fine the way they presented it in the show. What's our next episode?
The Belly of the Wollum.
Weblum. Yeah, The Belly of the Weblum. This is the, I like this episode. Usually 2 Keith episodes in a row would piss me off, but actually I thought these 2 Keith episodes were good, because Keith and Hunk, the dynamic here works. Mm. I like the humor that they kind of share. I like that Hunk's inquisitive questions that are actually kind of uncomfortable about Keith's Galra heritage. It's like, so I like Galra Keith. It's like, I'm not Galra Keith! Like,
I like the tutorials.
The tutorial video!
They were so bad.
Step 1, don't static. And if you avoid that, you won't die. And then they're like, okay, step 1, do not go in front of the Weblum. And they go in front of the Weblum. They're like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
They also met a Galleran in the Weblum. And Keith really gave him the benefit of the doubt, and this Galleran betrayed them in the end. Well, maybe not. Without dialogue, we don't really know what that Galleran's deal is.
We have no idea what... Like, obviously, he or she was there for parts as well.
Yeah, for the crystals.
But we have no idea whether he or she would have shot Keith or not. It was more of a, I'm taking some of this as well, don't stop me.
From a science biology standpoint, a lot of the Weblum doesn't make sense. But from a fun storytelling standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. Because the idea that the material you need to harvest only comes out when it's defending itself, that makes a lot of sense. That it would have this material that lets it shoot laser beams, and that you can only harvest it from its innards when it's in the active process of being in defense mode, right? I really like that.
It was good that Hunk figured that out.
I like that, and, normally I don't like episodes that are set inside giant space vaginas, but this giant space vagina episode was definitely tolerable. It gave us good Keith Hunk moments, and we got to see the cool scene of Allura just kind of dismissing Keith. And I forget if it was this episode or the next, but Keith offhandedly mentioned something to Hunk about how, it's bad enough that Allura hates me. I don't need you questioning me now.
Yeah, it was this episode.
Yeah, and they all separated to go do different missions, and this was Keith and Hunk's to do, is to go get more lenses.
So the next episode is Escape from Beta Traz.
I like Escape from Beta Traz.
I found it hilarious that Lance ended up taking the pet as it was the scientist.
Yup. Shiro, Lance, and Pidge have a great dynamic with each other. Because we get Serious Leader, who gets really annoyed by Slav. I like Slav. We get Brainy Person with the agenda finding her family, and we get Lance, who's just always awesome. We got a lot of Lance introspection in this episode. As a big Lance fan, I was a big fan of that. And we got to see that Lance talked about his teammates. He never said anything bad about Keith's Skull or heritage, so we know Lance doesn't hate Keith. It's just something about Keith irksome, right? So
we also have it revealed to us this episode that Dark Optimus, his link to the Black Lion, has weakened.
Yeah, and
to the point that he's having a very hard time tracking them now.
And this is where Zarkon kind of failed. Zarkon was never the greatest villain, even from the beginning. He was more of a menacing voice and a menacing silhouette. He's formidable, but he's not exactly greatest villain material. He's no Azula, that's for sure. But the thing about Zarkon is that in this season, he really just lost it. He was obsessed with the Black Lion. And in a way, I think that's a bit of a fault of the show. His obsession with the Black Lion led to so many situations where he should have won the day, but didn't. And of course, obviously, I don't want the heroes to lose because then we have no more Voltron. But in a way, it was too easy. Sometimes his obsession with the Black Lion, had he just listened to his advisors, he would have won. He would have at least done better. Like Grand Admiral Thrawn, Zarkon is not.
No.
And he needs a Grand Admiral Thrawn, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I liked Escape from Beta Traz. There was a lot of good humor in this. We got Slav, who's a great character. We got some good Lance moments, some good Pidge moments. We got some good Shiro moments. We got to see Pidge desperately trying to rescue Lance when he's in trouble because, God, that ship is going to kill me. And we got to see that Lance is actually an extraordinarily accurate shot when he focuses for 1 second. Like, holy shit, this is like FPS sniper things.
And we learned that Matt was rescued by a bunch of rebels.
Yep, so Matt is safe somewhere.
We still have no idea about the father, though.
No word about Professor Holt, but Matt is safe, at least. So,
or safer.
Safer. I kind of like the weird Bane Galra guy, how he had weird chemicals to make him buffer, but he also had the mechanical hand. He was pretty neat. I like that guy. And I like how he had his pet little girl puppy. Like, oh, sweetie, I love you so much. Yup.
Next episode is Staying Alive.
Which episode number is that?
That is 11.
And which one was this one exactly? Oh, right. This is the one where Allura goes back to the Balmora to get a crystal. And remember that asshole fucking salamander robeast? Turns out it's still alive and even deadlier now because now it has crystal shields. So she's forced to call Voltron back.
Which corrupted crystals has been a ongoing thing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big plot in season 3. They finally defeat this robeast. This is the episode where Thace gets caught and the Blade of Marmor is inside man. which is someone they need for this big plan they're going to do at the end of the season to work, has been compromised. We should mention that getting the crystal from the Balmora, getting the lenses from the Weblum, getting the engineered Teledove from the machine people planet. These are all part of a big plan that they have to teleport Zarkon's command ship to an empty part of space so they can take out Zarkon and attempt to stop the Empire that way.
And I'll go over the stupidity of that in a moment.
Yeah, we talked about this before we recorded, so we're going to bring that up again. This episode was alright. This was we hadn't had a Robeast episode in a while, and an episode where Voltron got to combine and kill a monster of the week. So I'm okay with that. We also got everyone kind of doing the whole, oh man, this is our final battle for the third or fourth time in a season, Ninja Turtles. And then we're going to go home kind of moment, right?
Which brings us right into best laid plans. Now, this is the episode where Allura and Keith have their
reconciliation.
Her admitting to him that it wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and that she does trust him.
I like that. And I like that Allura realizes this. I like that she hugged him. I like that she's like, no, you're part of my family. You come back to us. I'm sorry. And she's not saying she's forgiving Galra.
Yeah.
She's not forgiving Galrans as a whole, but she's realizing that she cannot...
Individuals versus a society.
Yeah, again, it's like my whole man thing.
Yeah,
I don't hate individual men. It wouldn't be fair of me to judge an individual man based on the actions of men. So I mean, yeah, this was a really good episode for that moment at the very least. We learn that the Blade of Marmora is aware that Face has been compromised and they want to cancel the plan. But Allura wants to go on with it anyway and kind of take a risk, right?
Yeah.
It all does work out because Keith does find Thace on the inside. They rendezvous, but Thace gets killed, unfortunately. Which is sad. I was hoping we'd see more of Thace because I really like Thace's look. I like his character. They managed to teleport the ship away, which leads us to Blackout.
Now, let's talk about my issues with this plan.
Here to present his issues with the plan is Dave.
So, here's a bit of a plot hole with this whole plan. You have the ability to teleport him to a known location.
Dave, please qualify what you're talking about. Say Optimus Prime, I don't care.
Dark Optimus.
Every time you say him or her, I'm like, well, it could be anybody.
You're transporting their base to a known place to disable and take Dark Optimus out. Number one, you don't have... Why not just transport his ship, all of his ships they had there, because it wasn't just his base that they transported, into a black hole, or a sun, or if you can't do it directly, beside, so you can push it in. It's disabled, for fuck's sakes, and you're controlling Voltron. Don't tell me you can't put it beside a sun and then just throw the fucker in. And even if you can't do all of that, if there's an actual reason in the world that teleportation doesn't allow it to do that through Altan technology or whatever else, how about having a giant fucking bomb where you're teleporting it? Like, my first part of that plan would be teleport. But it would be teleporting into a minefield, which then, from outside the minefield, I push a button and watch the base and all the fleet go up in a giant fucking explosion.
To be fair, it wasn't quite a teleport. They were wormholing it, which is slightly different.
Okay, but all I'm saying is, you know where you're putting it. If this plan works, he's going to point A. Point A would be mined, freaking I would have laser fucking beams going on there. I'd have my own little fleet if I was able to. Like, I'd get a whole bunch of those freaking cubes they had the cube they had to blow up from the machine plant. I'd have them purposely make me about 5 of them that I could use against the fucking ship. Like, I would have this place so deadly that as Voltron, I would only need to assemble Voltron because the button would be too big to press normally.
Now, you have...
Beep!
You have good points. Counterpoint, and you're going to cry bullshit on this, but it's the truth. And
Bullshit.
It's always the truth in fiction, okay? The rule of cool trumps all. Everything you just said would be logical and fine. But it doesn't lead to a big clash of Voltron with the big mech, does it?
Doesn't. Like, okay, look, this is war. You're not just... Killing the leader is not going to resolve the issue.
You take out the head of the snake, and the rest follows. God, I love Sahara.
The problem with the whole head of the snake is that when you cut off the head of the snake, it grows 3 more. It's the fucking Hydra. You don't end something by taking out the leader, because then the second in command just takes over. You take out its support structure, you take out its forces, and then you chop off the head. Because if there's nothing for the 3 heads to grow from, you're good.
Now, earlier when we talked about this, I had a whole bunch of arguments for why I thought maybe we could rationalize this. They were everything from maybe the gravity field of a black hole or a star is incompatible with a teledove, because in an earlier episode, when the virus took over the cast of lions, it couldn't teledove them into the center of the sun. It could only teledove them in front of it.
And that's why I changed my reasoning to be beside and push.
Yeah, they should really have teledoved it to the one Blade of Marmora base, which was the star surrounded by 2 black holes.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. But, maybe there weren't enough resources to do that. Maybe they felt that they had to isolate the main base from the fighter ships because the virus wasn't going to... The virus is even more of a plot hole, but we'll get to that in a moment.
But at least they had somebody on the inside to do it.
That was some Independence Day shit, that virus. But...
Well, no.
Rule of cool, again.
Actually... At least then they had access to their technology that their own people made the virus.
Sure.
It wasn't an ant came along, gave them a disk, and said, put into drive.
I would have preferred if the whole computer just had some exploitable memory leak or some shit. But still, virus. It all works out.
And at least if there had been hostages on the base, that was the reason they didn't just blow it the fuck up. But no. There was no reason to keep anybody alive on that base anymore.
Well, maybe that's why. Maybe there was some agreement that the Blade of Marmora said we can't just up and kill a whole bunch of Galrans. That's not right either. They're not all... Some of them are not guilty. So, and this is a world-sized ship, right? Like, it's possible that... Because here's the thing. They took it to the empty space. Their plan before Hagar blasted it with the quintessence draining beam and before Zarkon boarded his mech... The plan, if that didn't happen, was to disable the ship and then take out Zarkon. The plan was not to blow the thing up. And maybe they thought that having a whole bunch of other forces would be unnecessary and perhaps risky when it could just be the Castle of Lions and Voltron that were the only risk-taking elements here. Because here's the thing, you're right. You can't just cut off the head of the snake. Even if they had succeeded and Zarkon died, which he did not, then... First of all, Prince Lotor is mentioned, and he's Zarkon's son. And in classic Voltron shows, he was a character who was in love with Allura, but was still evil. Long story. Prince Lotor, obviously, there's still a line of succession.
Yeah.
He's the prince. And when Zarkon was in a coma at the end of the episode, Hagar said, "Summon Prince Lotor." So Prince Lotor is probably going to be our Azula figure for season 3.
Yeah.
So there's still a leader of the Galran Empire.
And that was just my argument. Killing Zarkon is not going to work. Yes, he has been the one who has kept this empire going for 10,000 years. He's been alive for 10,000 years for some reason. Kill him. Yes.
Yeah, I think
he's got to go.
I think that's the main plot hole. We can rationalize, even thinly, everything else, but we can't really rationalize that they thought killing Zarkon was going to end the war. There's still too much work to do.
And that's my big problem is, yes, killing Zarkon is a goal. Yes, it's a check mark that you have to get past. Defeat him, eliminate his effect on the Black Lion. Like, he's got to go. Abso-fucking-lutely. But they were basically step 1, step 2, win. Whereas step 2 is simply continue the war.
Yeah.
That's my big problem. It's just, you're dealing with a resistance force where it was a one-step win plan. It just doesn't work that way.
No,
Shiro and their whole group is more intelligent than that. I can believe them being blinded to more of the... Like, they were even talking about going home after he was dead.
Yeah.
Like, they literally did not... None of them have quantified the fact that once he's gone, even if the Empire no longer had a leader or somebody to step into that role, you're now going to have what happened in Star Wars. The Emperor's dead. All the other sub-commanders take over their own little parts of the universe, and now you're dealing with 1,000 little warlords.
You are right. You're not wrong. And arguably, one could say that what should have happened is this season should have been about subverting Zarkon and turning his forces against him, and then in a later season you try to kill him. That said, I would rather they do what they did here than have a weak sauce ending where nothing just kind of happened and it was just set up. Because here we at least got to see Voltron in an awesome fight against the enemy Galra mech that Zarkon made for himself, which is a really cool design. I know it totally just looks like Zarkon, but it's still cool. Well, I like the wings on that thing.
And let's talk about that for a minute. He made a mech that was fighting Voltron.
His people made a mech, and it was untested and experimental. But you're right, he had a Voltron level weapon on hand. Again, though, Voltron's not at full power.
Not at full power, but I just have an issue. He's been doing this for 10,000 years. And you had the ability to make, even an experimental stage, a Voltron-style mech.
Why do you need Voltron?
Why do you need Voltron, and why the fuck did this happen now?
See, here's the thing. I don't think these points by themselves ruin what is otherwise a fantastic show.
It doesn't. But
what will matter is if season 3 or 4 and onward don't tackle this. Because one thing we need to see is what caused the rift between Alfor and Zarkon. Did Zarkon do what he did for good intentions? Maybe he is doing it for a good reason. Maybe there's some weird Mass Effect situation going on where if he doesn't do this, something even worse is going to happen.
Okay.
But I mean, the thing is ultimately, yeah, you're right. This season finale, the plan they had is full of holes, and there's so much to take apart. I would still rather have this than what we saw in Star vs. the Force of Evil, where where it was just set up, like
yes, exactly. I don't want there to be some larger threat that he's doing this for. There's a reason why even his own people are saying he's a despot.
Some of his own people.
Some of his own people.
Some of the people he commands. And one would imagine some of the non-Galra people he commands probably see him as... Though they probably see him as a wise and benevolent ruler.
Maybe.
That's one thing we haven't encountered. Planets that don't want to be liberated. I kind of hope we encounter a Latveria or two in a future season.
Well, that would be fine. The reason why I don't want a larger threat, number one, 10,000 years. If that threat hasn't gotten here in 10,000 years, and you had no idea that, Alera was going to wake up, you had no idea where the Black Lion was or anything else for the end game, to have Voltron, 10,000 years. No, there wasn't a larger threat. This is like people trying to say now that Palpatine from Star Wars put together the Empire because he knew the Vong were out there.
We're in a non-canon timeline now. But yes, good point.
Oh, you think so?
I know so. The Legends timeline is not happening in the main timeline. But here's the thing. In that timeline, you have a perfect point. It would be as if he was doing it for some greater good. But, counterpoint, Palpatine did do it for the greater good in his view. He thought that the galaxy was too chaotic and unrefined, and here's the thing, he wasn't wrong. The Republic and the incompetent Jedi Council were fucking things up royal. So what did he do? And here's one thing I'm going to give George Lucas a lot of credit on, despite the fact that he later proved himself to be a racist idiot. He fucking did exactly what happened in the United States not that long ago. And he basically preyed on people's fears to install something way worse. But that he feels is for the greater good.
And the greater good was why he set it up so that if/when he died, the universe went with him.
Oh yeah, because he can't have that going on. If he died, this is typical beholder behavior. If he dies, nothing else deserves to live.
Anyway, back to Voltron. This was a good season 2 finale. At the end,
we need to talk about two big reveals, though. One is that Hagar is Altan.
Yeah.
Because in a really awesome scene, Allura and the two agents from the Blade of Marmora, including the one guy who never took off his mask and then died, got to go fight some druids. And again, fuck fighting druids.
However, she was holding her own.
She was, but it still took, they still had to double team these druids. And then in a particularly cool move, she strikes Hagar. Hagar's hood flies off. It turns out Hagar's an Altan.
And another good thing they did, even though they didn't blow up the base, they did blow up the druid circle there, which was how they were being tracked.
That's right. Granted, with Zarkon in a coma and the Black Line connection to him pretty much severed, they're not going to track them that way anymore.
On the other hand, with Shiro being MIA inside the Black Lion, we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, Shiro is gone. We don't know where he is. He's
no
not in his
body,
cockpit.
no nothing.
He did that weird thing where he phased through Zarkon to take his Bayard back and then create the Flame Sword. But the Flame Sword had some weird unintended side effect, and Shiro's vanished and become ether or some shit. So that's our big cliffhanger. Also, Hagar said summon Prince Lotor, and we're going to get who I hope is our Azula of this show.
Yeah.
So that was season 2 of Voltron. Overall, Dave, you were telling me after I forced you to watch this show that you like this show. You still like it?
Loving it.
Voltron moves at a nice, brisk pace that is neither too fast nor too slow. It has great characters, great writing, great humor, great storytelling, lots of depth. And while there are some giant logic holes and logical issues with a lot of the plans and whatnot, Rule of Cool, I think, saves everything in the end.
It's been fun.
It is beautiful,
yes.
too. It is a fantastic show. If you have Netflix and it's available in your country, thankfully this is in Canada, you have no excuse not to watch Voltron Legendary Defender. Go watch it. Go support that.
Well, the nice thing is seeing as it's a Netflix show, they have control of where it gets played.
And it's going to be here for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
So,
hopefully so's Shiro.
Hopefully, we'll see. If past Voltron shows are any indication, his character is going to die or not come back. I like Shiro. Yeah, I complained about him being boring on his own and with Keith, but I still like him. I don't dislike Shiro at all. I think he's a great character used correctly. I don't want him to die.
Yeah. Do not Tasha Yar this character.
Do not Tasha Yar any character. Not even Tasha Yar. We are Carl's Dave Anime Rave. We are the best anime review and reaction show on the internet. And we are about to watch Voltron Legendary Defender Season 3. You looking forward to Season 3, Dave? Now, this season's a little shorter than the last couple. This season's only 7 episodes. Not sure if any are double length or anything like that. The Voltron team wants to put out more seasons, smaller seasons more often. A move that I completely agree with, me personally, because that means not having to wait so long for more Voltron. And shorter chunks might just benefit the narrative. So, last we left the crew, they had defeated Zarkon and dealt a seemingly crippling blow to the Galra Empire, but Shiro was nowhere to be found. He vanished after their last attack. Only the Black Lion came back empty. Now, a little disclaimer, I have already seen the first 2 episodes of this one, but then after that, I'm completely blind.
Let's jump in and see who takes over the Black Lion. Cause it sure as hell won't be Shiro. They find out that whenever a pilot dies, the lion literally eats its pilot to get more powerful.
We don't need a Madoka twist to fucking Voltron, okay? Let's not do this to me. Unless it's Mammy being eaten every episode, then I'm okay with it. Fuck her.
Well, her father's dead, and the universe was enslaved for hundreds of years, so...
Tens of thousands of years.
So maybe your father was wrong.
Well, I mean, there was a schism between Zarkon and her father, right? And Zarkon was the pilot of the Black Lion, so it's entirely possible this whole thing started over a disagreement of whether or not a weapon should be the defender of the universe. Wow. Someone's animation team's a fan of Gurren Lagann.
Yeah,
I gotta tell, I think Karan pulls off the look.
No, he really doesn't. Original or nothing, my friend. Original or nothing.
Excellent. Can they form Voltron now?
Well...
We can't form Voltron, okay? We can fly the lines, but Voltron is not happening.
What he means is that right now they can't do it, but...
But nothing! Shiro is gone. He was the Black Lion, and until we find him, there is no Voltron.
And it's stuff like that that makes him not a leader.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing about, like, antisocial loners like him. They try to act as though their lack of emotion is a type of intelligence and awareness. In reality, it's just evidence of their cluelessness, right? He has no idea how to conduct himself in a situation like this. He is not a diplomat at all. This is why I say Keith, the leader, could be an interesting character, because this is shit he has to learn. This is shit that came very naturally to Shiro. Mm-hmm. And I think I recall I said Shiro was kind of a dull character without other people around. If Shiro was to come back as kind of a Sixth Ranger role, not as a leader, but as kind of the way, like, Jason used to be the Red Ranger, and then in a later season he came back as the Sixth Ranger for a different team. Or Tommy, even.
Yes.
Like,
Tommy's a good example, actually.
Like, I think Shiro's tormented background is way more... Shiro, the tormented Galra victim, is much more interesting than Shiro, the leader. Keith, the learning leader, is much more interesting than whatever the fuck Keith has been for 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. So, I think this could... And yes, I'm privy to what happened in this episode and the next. But I don't know what happens after that, and I'm thinking and hoping that's what we're going to see.
Honestly, I get why they're there. I mean, as an example of, the Paladins and everything else. Mm-hmm. But for this sort of talk, having one of them there would have been much more efficient than having all of them there. We would have avoided this.
Or at least have some training, like... Lance is kind of the people person, right?
Yes.
He's the guy who should be briefing them on, what to do if you're asked this. This is how you answer this type of question.
Of course, Keith wouldn't take that advice because Keith is doing the whole loner asshole.
The thing is, though, Keith isn't stupid. And Keith does value his friend's input. Like, Keith and Lance have shown that there was a situation in Season 1 where Lance basically told Keith not to be a hothead, let's do things this way.
Yep.
And Keith listened, because Keith isn't stupid, right?
Now, top marks for this conversation here.
Yeah, it's cornball exposition, but it still works, I think.
I mean, coming from Zarkon's soldiers, yeah, this conversation makes sense, and it gives us what might be a actual good ruler. A adequate conqueror, not ruler.
What I'm hoping to see is just a good villain. Zarkon, it's okay for a villain to be this overbearing pillar of strength if they're cool enough. Like, the villain in the first half of Gurren Lagann was that character, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just exuded cool.
Yes.
He exuded charisma. Zarkon is kind of that guy, but without the charisma, right?
Yeah, he really was.
Like, this conversation, if in a vacuum, this is the stupidest exposition-y conversation ever. Coming from Galra soldiers who followed Zarkon's lead, it makes absolutely perfect sense for them to be like, I hear he allows the planets to rule themselves. How droll. You know, that makes total sense for this to be said. And you're absolutely right. And it gives you the idea that Lotor is going to be a very different kind of villain than Zarkon. Someone who isn't quite as irredeemably oppressive. Someone who still is probably like Zarkon, lawful evil, but a different flavor of lawful evil.
I mean, just that comment about how he allows the planets to rule themselves under their rule. Well, yeah, that's the smartest thing you can do if you're a evil dictator kind of thing. Let the people rule themselves under your laws, and that way not everybody's going to want to kill you.
Yeah, if everyone loves you, you don't need to do much to keep them under control.
Look at the Swiss here on Earth.
Here on our Earth, let's look at the Swiss people.
I mean, look at history there. They've never cared. All the change of the guard, the Russians came in and conquered them, the Germans conquered them, anything else. It was just who they paid taxes to. They literally did not give a fuck because who do I make out my check to? Pretty much. Yeah, they had resistance fires and everything else, but the actual normal people, they weren't.
There's going to be a subject matter expert on this who listens, who's going to be like, Dave is absolutely incorrect about the Swiss in World War II. They were
I'm not looking at World War II, but traditionally, a number of those countries in that area didn't care because whoever ruled them, the common person, it didn't matter. They went along with their lives, they paid taxes to whoever they had to, and life went on.
There's a quote from the stupid Highlander series. I don't know if this was the origin of it, but it's where I heard it. Where Duncan MacLeod said to someone that if your people fear you, they'll fight for you. But if they love you, they'll die for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be cool if this villain could turn things around and make the subjects of the Galra Empire love the Galra Empire so that they resist Voltron all on their own.
Yeah, yay. There's potential here. Well, there's always been potential.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love Lotor's look in the show. He looks like an evil fantasy dark elf in space. His hair is cool. His voice is cool. I thought he was Crispin Freeman for a moment, but I looked up his voice. I forget the name of the voice actor. It's not Crispin Freeman, though. Although, honestly, Crispin Freeman could have sold it, but doesn't matter.
So, he's a half-breed. I'm betting he's half Altean.
He could be half Altean. He definitely looks...
He has the ears for the Alteans, and a kind of the whole hybrid thing, so
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me.
He does not look entirely Galra.
Well, we know he isn't because they told us.
Yeah. Well, you said he was a he was
a half-breed.
Did they mention half-breed?
They mentioned half-breed,
okay.
yeah. And that most of his commanders were half-breeds as well.
I know they mentioned exiled, for sure, which means, what if Zarkon did not want Lotor there? And the only reason Hagar summoned him is because Zarkon is incapacitated and it can't delay that order, basically.
Possibly. What if...
Hagar may be making a move herself.
Well, or how about this?
Hagar's Lotor's mom.
And, yeah. That's probably what it is.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to...
Yeah.
I just looked at you and I'm like, yeah, he's going to suggest that. Because of course she is. How could she not be?
Hey, and that's where the Altan blood comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It makes perfect sense. Also, why Hagar is so devoted to him.
I will say that Lotor has an entourage that reminds me. You'll see them in like 2 minutes. They remind me a lot of Azula's entourage. And given that some of the staff members involved in in Voltron were involved in Avatar. Mm-hmm. It's one of those weird similarities, because there was like that season 2 episode where they were being chased, which reminded you of Avatar, and other things that remind you of Avatar.
Oh, yeah.
This is another thing, like, Lotor may be a more rational Azula, if things play out as they do.
And a more rational Azula might have won.
A more rational Azula is frightening.
Yeah.
But potentially more merciful. I don't get why this guy thinks he's hot shit. Like, he was just talking about how pathetic it was that Lotor fights alongside his enlisted people. That means Lotor knows how to fight real good, dude. And of course that's another, like Zarkon did not do too much of his own fighting. He did it like twice. Mm-hmm. He left it mostly to Hagar, his people, and Robeasts. Lotor kind of wants to do it himself.
Let's face it here. Idiot who's now fighting Lotar.
Throck.
Does it actually matter that I remember his name?
No.
Okay. So, Throck, who's about to get Throcken.
He's about to get throcked. His name is also the verb with which you can describe his ass kicking.
It isn't... I took it, his whole comment there about... It's his blood that makes him weak.
Sure.
And the whole pure blood talk and everything else. That's stupid. If he fights well... Who gives a fuck?
It's another white supremacist commentary. Yeah. And I always love when cartoons and shows, period, just bring that to light, because we need more of that in a very terrible Galra Empire 2017.
Lance, is your representative to cheer him up or get him on?
He's a people person. Lance has these skills.
I don't care. I just said Pidge. In this case.
Then you'd be sending the wrong person. Voice director Andrea Romano. She is so fucking talented. I've seen interviews of her, like, going through her picking voices and her kind of method. She is amazing. I wish Andrea Romano could be cloned so that she could voice direct everything.
This is a good first episode.
For the season, yeah. We didn't see much of the titular Voltron, but we also didn't need to. This is, we're reestablishing characters to a degree. We get enough flashback to build intrigue. We get the introduction of a new villain, and some possible descent in the Galran ranks. And yeah, it's a good setup for what's to come.
Red could totally be the new black.
Get out.
It's not like orange could be the new black.
Leave your recording studio. Leave me alone in it. Get out. Give me your keys. The deed to your house, and get out. I want to point out that when Allura pulls up her hair, she can seemingly compress it into an alternate hair dimension. Because she has a lot less hair when it's up. I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's a hairy situation.
I have nobody to blame for myself for the Carlos Dave anime of the best anime review show on the internet. But you can still escape! Run! Run, viewers! One thing I was worried about, because Lance was my favorite character in the first couple seasons, one thing I was worried about is that he was going to get Yamcha real quick and just be, at best, like an unimportant nobody. But what we see from Lance here in these first 2 episodes is a maturity that makes sense, given that he has shown that he has kind of an insecure and analytical side to him. We saw we've seen it in the first 2 seasons, but we saw in the first episode of this one where he wanted to assure the Blade of Marmora got credit. He shows it when he's trying to comfort Keith, and when he respects the Black Lion's decision here, he doesn't try to fight it. He says, you know what, it respects it. You know what, I respect its decision, I'll follow you. And that's something I am very glad to see from a character I like. I like to see them continue to grow. I don't like to see them fall by the wayside.
Now that being said, Keith should not all of a sudden be the pilot of the Red Line.
Keith is the pilot of the Red Line.
Sorry, Lance.
Why do you say that?
Because the attributes that Keith had that
Did you just say attributes?
Yes. The things that made him the rider of the Red Lion are not what makes Lance the Riders of the Blue. If he has grown, as we say, he has grown to this point, he does not have those things that made Keith the Rider of the Red Lion.
Now, to add to what you're saying, the Red Lion has a temperament and kind of a fickleness to it. Counterpoint, Keith is not Shiro, and the Black Lion chose Keith anyway. Hell, Keith is not Zarkon, and it was still listening to Zarkon for a good chunk of the first 2 seasons. So the rider does not have to be the same kind of person. They have to exhibit certain qualities, and the line is to accept that this is who their pilot is.
I still don't think that Lance should switch. He should stay at the Blue Line.
I will admit I was secretly hoping that Allura was going to tune to the Black Lion, partly because Allura has earned the right to be the leader of Voltron, and because you just know every bro flake on the internet would be like, my childhood is ruined because Voltron's being led by a woman.
Well, fuck them.
No, I agree with this.
I don't.
You know what? You're going to get a real good moment here that sells it, I think. One thing I do like is seeing the paladins and the lions that aren't quite the same color as their outfit. The interior look of the lights against that color is a neat juxtaposition that you're going to see in, what will obviously be 3 of the 5, right? So, visually it's neat.
They're still missing the Black Bayard. Yes, I remember the name of the weapon.
Well, Shiro had it. Shiro had it in the fight against Zarkon. I have no idea if the Black Bayard got claimed by Keith at this point.
Seeing as Shiro disappeared, probably the Bayard and the armor went with it.
Armor, yeah, Bayard was probably plugged into that slot it was plugged into.
I haven't seen it so far.
Yeah, you're right. We have not yet seen it, and I don't know if it appears in any episode after this, so...
Really have to give them for the design of these planets.
The planets...
Very few planets are a full planet kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the Voltron team, their backgrounds and settings and whatnot and illustrations are just superb. They really live up to the science fantasy kind of label, right?
Yeah.
Everything looks distinctly alien and fantastical, but still familiar and a fun place to be and colorful, you know, like it's a joy to behold. This is really one of the best shows on Netflix, real talk.
Yeah.
It would be really, again, this juxtaposition of color, if you look at Keith Lance, really cool. It would be really weird to suddenly switch like that, because Keith is used to piloting a speedy small lion, and now he's piloting the biggest one. Of course he's gonna be, like, all over the place. He switched from fucking Chun-Li to Zangief.
From a Ferrari to an 18-wheeler.
And, Lance went from, like, a large lion, a large all-rounder with a freeze ray, to this super fast fire lion that, of course, they're all gonna have trouble in their new lions. They're basically used to something else. It's gonna be hard, right? Mm-hmm. I do like the Allura-Lance bonding we got in this episode. That's not something we really got of a lot, because in the first 2 seasons, whenever they were interacting, it was usually Lance trying to hit on her, right? So I really enjoyed the kind of passing of the torch here in this episode, the 2 times it happened. I really enjoyed that part of it. Keith, I was just defending Keith the leader learning. Well, I suppose this is a learning thing. But even as a beginner leader, this seems really ill-advised.
And more than likely, Lothar knows he did it.
Oh, yeah. Lotar's smart enough to know this. Like, this is a very poor plan.
Yeah.
You should at least have some team-building exercises, considering that you have 2 people who are piloting new lions, 1 entirely new pilot, and 2 others who are in their same line, but need to now work with people in different lines. Like, your first excursion should not be facing off against the son of Zarkon!
You're skydiving before you can walk.
Yes, exactly.
And expect them to do acrobatics in the air when you've never met any of these people.
That's right.
This guy drives his ship like that old arcade game, Virtual X, was it?
Virtual On?
Virtual On, with the two sticks going multiple directions to do different things.
Lotor seems to be embarrassing them. Lone fighter just weaving around the Voltron lions.
Yeah.
They can't even catch him.
Real talk here. If they have ships of this quality, why the fuck are they sending out TIE fighters versus the TIE Advanced here?
Okay, I'm gonna make a counterpoint, and then I'm going to immediately counterpoint my own counterpoint.
Okay, go ahead.
Counterpoint. It's entirely possible that it's readily available materials means building the shitty drone fighters is better, and these advanced TIE Defender types that Lotor is clearly piloting are a rarer type of ship that they save for a more experienced pilot. Counterpoint to the counterpoint, they're the Galra Empire and should not be this resource-starved. Lance is even acting like the number 2 right now. He's kind of calling Keith on his shit when he deserves to be called on it. Not out of petty Lanceisms, but when it needs to be done. But he's also supporting Keith where it needs to be done too, like a good number 2. I like this. I'm all for this. I'm a Lance fan, so this bodes well for me. Oh god, they're gonna kill him. Oh no.
Yeah, they're gonna lance him right out. Sorry. He's gonna, as you said earlier, he's gonna get Yamcha'd.
You are on borrowed time, Dave.
Him in life, just friends.
Gotta say, the voice acting in this episode has been super good. Just everyone sounds annoyed and panicked and frightened, and Allura especially.
Allura took a hit! I'm going after her! Hulk! The rest of you stay on me! Keith, we have to go back for Allura!
Keith, you're splitting up the team!
Keith, don't do this!
And Keith, too, with his frustrated kind of grunts.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fantastic.
Okay, there's desperate, and then there's...
Hey, if you have to get into the mindset of Lance, you gotta get into the mindset of Lance. You can't fucking half measure this shit. You gotta go full measure.
Oh, she full measured something.
I really enjoyed episode 3 here. I enjoyed the tension of it. I enjoyed the characters kind of growing into their roles. I was definitely right with my hunch that Keith the leader is way more interesting than Keith the emo loner.
See, now we're gonna have the power struggle.
Yeah, the
You
butting
can't-
heads.
You can't just say he's the leader of Voltron and then take back power whenever you want, Princess. You're now under his command.
She's a queen. Let's be real. She should be Queen Allura.
Okay, look. You do not get to be the queen of 2 people. You can be the princess, you don't get to be the queen.
Not what I was saying, but okay.
Time jump.
It must be, right? They tried to travel through time?
Question is forward or back? You'd think it would have to be back in time for them to be one of their ships.
Now, is it a time thing or is it a timeline thing? Have these jumped to an alternate reality?
Ooh, do we really need to go down that?
Oh, I hope they encounter the old anime Voltron. They get into a dance battle with a monster.
For fuck's sakes.
No, it makes sense, and Shiro is short for Takashi Shirogane, and the character in canon is supposed to be Japanese, right? So he might have an accent if he didn't quite go learn English right away.
No, and that's fair enough. It's just... But that means it's not a time jump.
No, it's an alternate reality.
Alternate reality in the same time frame.
He called him Sven. In the original Voltron, Takashi Shirogane was his English name was Sven, and he was the original pilot of the Blue Line, but he died. And that's when Princess Allura took over the Blue Line in the old Voltron canon.
Okay.
So calling him Sven, maybe he's got a weird European accent, and this version of Shiro is... Okay, this is hurting my head. It's a nice little nod to the fact that Shiro's English name used to be Sven, right?
Also, obviously in this universe, the Altans are the bad guys.
It would seem so.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Nobody should have the ability to put their justice to other realities.
Or this reality. Oh no! What if an alternate version of Altans of being the villain? Oh jeez! All right, neat little alternate reality episode. I like that. I like the little nod to classic Voltron. Yeah, it's a little out of nowhere how Lotor, like, they just said he knew about it, but whatever. It's not that out of nowhere. Plus, this gives Lotor the means to combat Voltron on its terms, or potentially bring in alternate realities into the fray, right? Because with a universe-spanning empire, one has to imagine, well, what's the threat after that empire is neutralized? And now we have a potential continuation, right? For the story in case that happens.
In many ways, the Altan reality is worse than the current one.
Oh, it's way worse. Extremely worse. Let's rob the free will. That's what I want to do to people of this planet. It's terrible. No, I'll willingly do it when I have the power. Okay, I don't think this is a flashback or a dream.
Nope.
I think, yeah, this is a cloning situation or... Oh god, why does everything need to have a clone saga?
No, this is obviously one of their plans to try and take back Voltron.
Maybe.
He wakes.
Did you remember to put the clamp on him?
Which clamp?
The one that keeps his arm from turning into a weapon.
The red one?
It's the only clamp we have! Ah!
Where am I? Why am I tied up?
I say we eat him.
He doesn't look Gora.
Does that mean we can't eat him?
We're not going to eat him.
I'm not...
Is that Lars's voice?
Could be.
Sounds an awful lot like Lars.
It does. Really digging the whole hairstyle he's rocking there.
Yeah, long hair Shiro's a sexy beast. I gotta say I approve.
Too bad we pretty much know that he's not the original.
We don't pretty much know anything. You're drawing a lot of conclusions based on nothing. Well, that was the Shiro episode that we all knew was coming. But it leaves us with a lot of questions. Is this a clone? Is this the original? What was the other Shiro he saw? The original or clone? Again, I hope that they keep the current paradigm because I like Keith the leader and Shiro the tormented Galra victim much better than Shiro the leader and Keith the nobody.
I don't think they're going to go back to the old paradigm.
Agreed.
How it is now is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be the original.
No, it can't. We need to have a Green Ranger situation. We need a sixth lion for Shiro, I think.
He could ride whatever mech they come up with from the meteor.
Yeah, this is true. If they still have a little chunk of it.
Oh, I just had a thought.
Here was his thought is Dave.
It's not a clone. It's another realities version of him.
But he remembered the fight with Zarkon.
So, if we're talking an infinite amount of realities, all you have to do is just find one that had one decision near the end not done the same and grab him.
It still doesn't explain, even if this is not the same Shiro that vanished, it still doesn't explain why that Shiro vanished.
Oh, sure. Or, unless it does, and our Shiro was grabbed by another reality at that exact moment.
There's a lot of questions, and that would leave a lot of holes. But let's see what happens. I really like Lance's maturity this season an awful lot. I like Lance as number 2 guy. I really do. I like that he thinks he's the dead weight, that he doubts himself, even though he has proven time and time again that he is not.
Still kind of hoping that him and Pidge get together, but
I am a plants shipper.
I hate you people.
Oh! Sorry, there was no follow-up to that.
There's no need to abbreviate two people's name when you're shipping them.
Yeah, but how else are we going to identify the ship?
Pidge and Lance!
Why
There! I did it!
That's 3 syllables and 3
for
words.
fuck's sake!
When one made-up word, plants, completely fixes all the problems.
I glitched myself. You were supposed to argue with that because I just came up from it. I don't hate shippers. I hate that.
You heard it here first, folks. If you have a ship, Dave hates you.
No, just you. Time for Throck to get rocked.
Now, I wonder, did Lothar put him here knowing this?
Maybe, but that would mean he would have been doing like 50 steps ahead.
He would have had to have calculated so far in advance he couldn't possibly have known.
No.
What are you thinking, Dave?
Okay, well, they used the, called the Teledove?
Yeah.
Well, what was the Teledove? A giant fucking portal.
They're going to try to portal to other dimensions, you think?
Power that now by the
comet?
The comet, and you've got a fucking gate to wherever you want.
Get some slider shit going.
Yeah.
That's probably way better than sliders.
For a second there, I was going to argue, because I liked sliders back in the day.
So did I.
But
this is way better.
Yeah, this is way better. No! Grab the ship and run! The fuck?
They don't know if they... I was about to say they don't know if they can. When has this stopped them before? You're right, take the ship and run.
Either take the ship and run, or blow it the fuck up. Hello? You've got your enemy's anti-Voltron weapon, and you're just gonna go find the dude?
It was her inside the giant space worm.
Yep.
Well.
I'm just gonna call it here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Say hello to Mummy.
You really think that she is Keith's mom? Seems a little young, don't you think?
Mum or sister?
Huh. Bold prediction. Let's see how it goes.
I'll even add a third one into there, just to cover my bases. Mother, sister, or soon-to-be love interest.
Okay, sure. You've covered all the possibilities. Might as well add the 4th possibility, none of the above.
No.
It's one of those 4 things.
No, I'm not.
And if you get one of those 4, you're right. I'm literally giving you a 100% chance to be correct.
I'm not giving myself the 4th option.
I'll take the 4th option.
Of course you will.
Yeah.
Coward. Why wouldn't a base on the outskirts of everything that, was basically being used as a punishment, have not only a piece of the Teledove, but also have, the new weapon?
Because people are expecting you to keep it in someplace more important.
Exactly. So was he actually punished, or was this all planned?
If Lothar put him there knowingly, why would Lothor's people attack Throck? It makes no sense.
I know!
Unless Hagar had shit put there, and Throck, and then Lothar knew Throck would not be loyal to him.
Your failure is most disappointing. Return before more Galra ships converge on your location.
See? Dick.
Oh yeah, he's a dick. Lothar's a dick. No one's denying that. Still, it's fascinating to see what's going on. The Galra is clearly splintered, and Lothar seems keen on not making that obvious. Let's move on to the final episode of the season.
Yep.
Galra ships bombarding a planet, probably Altea, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like Altean.
And then we see Galra soldiers attacking a planet of some kind, putting down a resistance. Then
you see what's left of Altea.
Sure. Same deal.
Same deal, yeah.
See the old paladins of Voltron. Zarkon is at the head. 4 different other people. I'm not sure if they're all Galra or not.
No, they all look different races. Including an Altean.
That's right, because King Alfor was the Red Lion. Mm-hmm. Then we see... Is that Zarkon with an Altean woman?
It sure looks like it.
Mm-hmm.
At first I thought might have been that looks very much like the princess.
I bet all Alteans just look alike to you.
Oh, fuck off.
Voltron in the past finding the comet? Is this when they built Voltron? Or is this after?
Or is this a brand new asteroid?
Comet.
It's no longer a comet if it's crashed into a planet.
They've been calling it the comet. Let's be consistent. Then an Altean girl smiling. I guess that would explain how both Hagar and Zarkon are so old and able to... Well, in a way, it's kind of explaining away why they're so affably evil. They were poisoned by quintessence. Is quintessence not as benign as we've been led to believe?
Fact is people are not meant to be immortal. It gives you delusions of grandeur.
Oh, we'll see what happens when I start my immortality project.
So he died.
In a manner of speaking.
Well, is it... No, I'm thinking he died, and what's in them is now whatever entities from that other universe.
An entity that can somehow call out and control the Black Lion. It seems Zarkon was pretty deceptive before he got quintessence poisoned. Pretty sure he's still in there, and quite at home.
Could be.
Husband, how could I have forgotten? You brought me back to life long ago.
Now, come back for me.
Hagar forgot? Oh, there are a lot of questions here next episode.
Sorry, I don't have a fast forward button to 2 months from now.
Dave, you have two choices. You can show the next episode right now, or I will kill you.
So, that was episodes 1 through 7, of which make up Season 3.
Yeah, all of Season 3 of Voltron. I enjoyed this season. It had a lot of character growth for Keith and Lance, specifically. It did the whole Keith leader thing, which I think he's better at, and Shiro Galra victim angle, which I think he's better at. This was definitely a season more of questions. More
answers.
Of establishing more of the universe and potential new threats in the form of creatures from the other universe and just other universe people themselves, like the other universe Alteans, who are quite evil. We know Lotor has some designs on this. We know that Hagar may have forgotten who she really was, but now remembers. And perhaps even Zarkon. Perhaps you're right. Maybe even Zarkon doesn't even remember who he was, though he certainly seemed to. So this adds intrigue to old villains that I didn't think were terribly intriguing just yet. Quintessence may not be as benign as we think, or maybe it is, and it's just the dark creatures that aren't. It's a fascinating expansion of the universe, but not specifically... The show has always had a really good pace, and this season's no different. Maybe it's just a shorter length, but it ended on a good episode, but I kind of miss the fact that we don't have that second half, and we're waiting until October or whenever it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but then again, while we didn't get that too many answers, I mean, this last episode really did fill in a lot of the stuff we needed to know. We finally know the history leading up to...
What we didn't get a lot of this season, that we got a lot of the first two, and maybe that's why we didn't get a lot of this season, was the Pidge development. Pidge had a lot of development in the first two seasons, and in this one, her search for Matt is only kind of mentioned just here and there.
Yeah.
For the most part, she's standing aside. The real stars were kind of Keith, Lance, and Allura, and Lotor, really. It was cool to see the old Paladins and their similarities to the new ones.
Yes.
Yeah, I take this as more of an establishing season, a shorter one. Still really good. Next season, I definitely want them to take this establishing stuff and give me that good Voltron action that I really fell in love with. We got no Robeasts this season.
I don't think we needed it this season. I mean, ultimately, what we got, they would have had to have shoehorned in a Robeast, and Lotar doesn't really do that. I mean, Hagar was the one who was always making them to be sent out, so the fact that he wasn't really relying on her at all meant that it wasn't needed. I mean, he did more than enough damage without any of the Robeasts.
Oh yeah, he's more of a mental villain.
Hands-on.
He's more of a cerebral assassin, if you will. We found out that his one general, whose name I forget, is the woman who Keith helped in the Weblum, and that she has disappointed him.
Which I don't quite understand how she could have disappointed him when really it was just Voltron pulling out a dodge, basically, to have her blow up the cell.
Yeah, I definitely think Lotor was giving me a few Grand Admiral Thrawn vibes. He lost it a little bit, getting upset at that. I could see him getting upset at repeated failures, but...
Yes. So let's hope that that's not a big thing going forward.
I do like the new configuration, the new team config. I hope that Shiro gets his own Lion or other vehicle to support them and be the 6th Ranger. I suspect we're going to see all that in Season 4. Voltron's great. I love Voltron. A lot of questions this season. This was a season of questions. And as long as they provide me answers and don't just keep asking questions, I'll be happy.
Yep.
Speaking of questions, folks, Carlos of Anime Rave is the best anime review and reaction show on the internet, and we can be found at animerave.xyz.
I hate you so much.